The sound of shattering glass echoed through my kitchen, followed by Debbie's startled cry. I dropped my phone mid-conversation, Martha's shrill voice still squawking about Gerald's fall and our supposed family obligations. My daughter's safety came first, always had, always would. "Mommy's coming, sweetheart," I called out, my bare feet carefully navigating around the broken remains of what used to be her favorite juice cup. Debbie stood frozen in place, her bright eyes welling with tears. "I didn't mean to," she whispered. I scooped her up, checking for cuts. "Of course you didn't, baby. Accidents happen." My phone buzzed again on the counter. "Martha." Again. The third call in 20 minutes. I ignored it, focusing instead on calming Debbie and cleaning up the mess. But the constant vibration felt like a hammer against my skull, each buzz a reminder of the conversation I just had with Tom. "We have to do this, Scarlett," he'd said earlier, his voice carrying that familiar tone of defeat I'd grown to hate. "Dad's hurt, and they need us. Need us. More like need to control us." The phone stopped buzzing, only to start again immediately. I set Debbie down on a clean spot and answered, my jaw clenched. "Martha, I'm dealing with something." "Tom's already agreed," she cut in. "We're clearing out the guest room as we speak. Gerald needs his family close now." My free hand gripped the counter until my knuckles turned white. "We haven't discussed this properly as a family yet." "What's there to discuss?" "This is what families do, Scarlett. Unless you're suggesting we abandon Gerald in his time of need?" The manipulation was so obvious it made my teeth ache. 5 years of marriage to Tom had taught me that arguing with Martha was like trying to nail Jell-O to a wall, messy and pointless. But moving into their house, subjecting Debbie to their daily criticism and control? "We'll talk about this when Tom gets home," I managed, keeping my voice level. "There's nothing to talk about. Tom understands his responsibilities. I expect you both here by the weekend." The line went dead before I could respond. I stared at my phone, fighting the urge to throw it across the room. Debbie tugged at my pants leg, her small face concerned. "Mommy? Are you mad?" I forced a smile, but inside, something shifted. Something hardened. "No, sweetie. Mommy's just thinking. Thinking about how Martha had orchestrated this whole situation. Thinking about Tom's spineless surrender. Thinking about how this was just the beginning of their attempt to take control of our lives. And thinking, very carefully, about how I was going to make them regret it." The guest room at Martha and Gerald's house smelled like mothballs and disappointment. I stood in the doorway, watching Tom unpack our lives into the cramped space while Debbie explored her new surroundings with innocent curiosity. "Look, Mommy. Grandma kept all Daddy's old toys." She pulled a dusty robot from a shelf, sending a cascade of forgotten memorabilia tumbling to the floor. "Careful with those," Martha's voice cut through the air like a knife. She appeared behind me, her presence making the already small room feel suffocating. "Those are collectibles, not toys for children to destroy." Debbie's face fell. I stepped between them, my voice steady. "She's 5, Martha. Children play with toys. Well, in this house, we have rules about respecting property." Martha's lips twisted into what might have passed for a smile. "Tom always understood that, didn't you, dear?" Tom barely looked up from the suitcase he was unpacking. "Mom's right, Debbie. Those are special toys." The betrayal stung, but I wasn't surprised anymore. I guided Debbie toward the door. "Let's go set up your room instead, sweetheart." "Oh," Martha interjected, "we thought it best if Debbie took the small room next to ours. For supervision." My hands tightened on Debbie's shoulders. "That's across the house from us." "Exactly. You and Tom need your privacy, and I can help with nighttime routines. I was a teacher, after all. I know how to handle children." The implication hung in the air like poison gas. I turned to Tom, waiting for him to speak up, to defend our right to parent our own child. He kept his eyes fixed on the contents of the suitcase. "That won't be necessary," I said firmly. "Debbie stays with us." Martha's expression hardened. "Tom." He finally looked up, his face a mask of forced neutrality. "Maybe Mom has a point, Scarlett. It might be easier." "Easier for whom?" I cut him off, my voice low and dangerous. "Debbie, go play in our room for a minute." Once she was gone, Martha crossed her arms. "I'm only trying to help." Though I suppose someone who gave up her career to play housewife might feel threatened by professional expertise. The words hit their mark, but I refused to flinch. Instead, I smiled, remembering my marketing days. Know your opponent. Find their weakness. Plan your strategy. You're right, Martha. I did give up my career to raise my daughter. But tell me, how's Renee doing with her? What does she call it? Freelance design business? Martha's face flushed. That's different. Is it? Because I heard she's moving back home too. Something about financial troubles. The silence that followed was deafening. Tom stopped unpacking, his shoulders tense. Martha's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. I picked up Debbie's fallen robot and placed it carefully back on the shelf. We'll keep our daughter's room next to ours, thank you. The sound of Renee's laughter drifted up from the kitchen, mingling with Martha's conspiratorial whispers. I paused at the top of the stairs, my hand gripping the banister. 3 weeks in this house, and I'd learned to recognize the sound of my name being dragged through the mud. She's completely lost control of Debbie, Renee was saying. Did you see how the kid acted at dinner? My daughter had simply asked for more juice. Apparently, that qualified as poor parenting in the court of Martha and Renee. Tom's finally seeing it too, Martha replied. He mentioned looking into that private school I suggested. The one with the strict discipline policy. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Tom and I had explicitly agreed, no private school. Debbie was thriving in her current environment. I started down the stairs, ready to confront them, when Gerald's gruff voice joined the conversation. Speaking of control, Renee, when are you planning to tell your mother about the business loan? Silence fell like a hammer. I froze mid-step. Daddy, please. $30,000, Martha. Our retirement savings, gone. And now she needs more. It's an investment, Renee protested. The business is just taking longer to fail? Gerald's voice was tired. Like the last 3 ventures. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Old marketing habits die hard, always gather evidence. This is different, Martha jumped in. And we wouldn't have to keep supporting her if Tom hadn't married that woman. All our resources should be going to Renee's future, not supporting their lifestyle. My hands shook with rage. Their lifestyle? Tom and I had never taken a penny from them. That's not fair, Mother, Tom's voice suddenly cut in. My heart lurched, how long had he been there? Scarlett and I are living in our house, eating our food, Martha finished. While your sister struggles alone. She's not exactly alone with Lucas, Tom replied. Speaking of which, does he know about the loan? Another heavy silence. He thinks it's my savings, Renee admitted. He can't know, Tom. He thinks I'm successful. If he finds out. He won't, Martha assured her. As long as everyone keeps quiet. Tom, you haven't mentioned this to Scarlett, have you? The pause before his answer felt eternal. No, he said finally. She doesn't know anything. I stopped the recording, my thumb hovering over the delete button. Then I thought of Debbie, of private schools and strict discipline policies, of all the decisions being made behind my back. I saved the file instead. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone's life. It's about waiting for the perfect moment to let them destroy themselves. Lucas showed up unannounced during Sunday dinner, carrying an expensive bottle of wine and wearing the eager smile of someone desperate to belong. I watched Renee's face drain of color as Martha ushered him in, noting how her hands trembled when he kissed her cheek. "I thought you were in Chicago until Wednesday," Renee stammered. "Wrapped up early. Thought I'd surprise you." He handed the wine to Martha. Chateau Margaux, 2015. A little celebration for the success of Renee's new design studio. My phone felt heavy in my pocket, the recorded conversation about Renee's failed business burning like a loaded gun. I caught Gerald's eye across the table. He looked away first. "How thoughtful," Martha chirped, but her smile was brittle. "Tom, get the good glasses." Tom stood, pausing behind my chair. His hand brushed my shoulder, a warning or a plea? I shrugged it off. "Actually," Lucas continued, pulling out a chair next to Renee, "I have another surprise. I've been talking to my firm about bringing Renee on as our lead designer. Her portfolio is incredible." Debbie knocked over her water glass. The splash barely registered as I watched the color drain from Martha's face. That's wonderful," Renee managed, her voice thin. "But I'm really focused on building my own brand right now." "With the 30,000 you borrowed from your parents?" The words left my mouth before I could stop them. The room went silent except for the steady drip of Debbie's spilled water hitting the floor. "Scarlett," Tom warned. Lucas frowned. "What 30,000? "Nothing," Renee cut in quickly. Scarlett's confused. "I haven't borrowed anything." I pulled out my phone, thumb hovering over the recording. One press and it would all come crashing down. I looked at Debbie, innocently sopping up water with her napkin, unaware of the tension crackling around her. "My mistake," I said finally, sliding the phone back into my pocket. "Must have misheard something." The relief on Martha's face was almost comical. But as I helped Debbie clean up the spill, I caught a glimpse of something else in Renee's eyes, not gratitude, but contempt. She thought I'd back down out of weakness. She was wrong. Sometimes the best revenge isn't a quick explosion, but a slow burn. Let them think they're safe. Let them keep building their house of lies. I'd wait until they were all inside before striking the match. "More wine?" I offered, smiling as I filled their glasses. "We should definitely celebrate." The engagement party invitation sat on the kitchen counter like a loaded weapon. Martha had planned it without consulting anyone, naturally. A grand celebration of Renee and Lucas's love, scheduled for next weekend. I was setting up my laptop at the dining room table when I overheard them in the study. "You can't keep stalling," Martha hissed. "Lucas's firm needs to see your portfolio by Monday." "I'm working on it," Renee snapped back. "Working on what?" "More excuses. The designs you showed me are amateur at best." "Mother. If Lucas sees these, he'll know you've been lying. About everything." I opened my recording app, letting it run while I typed random keys, maintaining the appearance of work. "What about Scarlett's old portfolio?" Gerald's voice joined in. "The campaigns she did for Thompson and Reed?" My fingers froze over the keyboard. "She keeps them on her laptop," Renee said slowly. "I've seen her showing Debbie the designs." "No," Martha cut in. "It's too risky." "What choice do we have?" Renee's voice cracked. "Lucas is already suspicious after that dinner. If I lose him." "You won't," Martha assured her. "We just need to be careful. Tom can help. He knows her passwords." My screen blurred as rage burned behind my eyes. 6 years of award-winning work. My legacy. And they planned to steal it, just like they'd stolen my home, my marriage, my voice. Footsteps approached. I closed the recording app just as Tom entered. "Working late?" he asked, hovering awkwardly. I smiled, thinking of all the times he'd watched me input my passwords. Just updating my portfolio, actually. For old time's sake. His face paled slightly. Oh. Remember that campaign that won the Silver Anvil? I was thinking of showing it to Debbie tomorrow. She loves the animated graphics. Right, he said, too quickly. Listen, about the engagement party. I can't wait, I interrupted, standing up. In fact, I'm preparing a special presentation. A tribute to Renee's creative journey. The thread hung between us. Tom's expression shifted from confusion to realization to fear. Scarlett, whatever you're thinking. I'm thinking it's time everyone saw the truth about this family's creative process. I closed my laptop, tucking it under my arm. Especially Lucas. You destroy Renee's relationship. Her future. No, Tom. Your family's lies will do that. I headed for the stairs, then paused. By the way, I've changed all my passwords. Just in case anyone was feeling creative. I left him standing there, clutching the invitation in trembling hands, finally understanding that he'd created something he couldn't control. Me. The engagement party buzzed with fake laughter and expensive wine. I stood in the corner, thumb hovering over my phone's play button, watching Martha parade Renee and Lucas around like show ponies. My laptop sat connected to the sound system, ready for the tribute presentation I'd promised. Debbie tugged at my dress. Mommy, can we go home now? Home. What a concept. Soon, baby. I smoothed her hair, catching Tom's worried glance from across the room. He'd been watching me all evening, waiting for the bomb to drop. Ladies and gentlemen, Martha clinked her glass. It's time for a special presentation about our beloved couple. My moment had arrived. I stepped forward, but Renee cut me off. Actually, she announced, gripping Lucas's hand. We have our own announcement first. She beamed at the crowd. We're pregnant. The room erupted in cheers. Martha's face lit up with genuine joy, something I'd never seen directed at me or Debbie. Lucas looked shell-shocked but happy, while Tom stared at me with pleading eyes. My finger trembled over the play button. One press and it would all come crashing down. The lies, the theft, the manipulation. I'd destroy not just Renee's reputation and relationship, but her unborn child's future too. Isn't it wonderful? Martha appeared beside me, her voice dripping honey-coated venom. Now Lucas is truly trapped, committed to the family. She smiled, showing teeth. We should schedule Debbie's private school interview soon, don't you think? Since you'll be so busy helping Renee with the baby. The room spun slightly. They'd planned this, another perfect trap. If I exposed them now, I'd be the monster who destroyed a young family. If I stayed silent. Mommy? Debbie's small hand found mine. I don't want to go to a different school. I looked at my phone, then at my daughter. The recordings suddenly felt heavy, toxic. Was this really about justice anymore, or had I let their poison seep into me too? The presentation, Martha prompted, her eyes glittering with challenge. You promised us something special. I did. I promised myself I'd protect what mattered most. Actually, I said, picking up Debbie, we need to leave early. Debbie's not feeling well. Running away. Renee smirked. How typical. No, I replied, meeting her eyes. I'm choosing my battles. And my daughter's future isn't going to be collateral damage in yours. I walked out, carrying Debbie and leaving my laptop behind. Let them have their moment of victory. Tomorrow, I'd call my old boss about that job offer I'd declined 5 years ago. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction, it's escape. I found Lucas in his office the next morning, reviewing what he thought was Renee's portfolio. My portfolio. The one they'd stolen from my laptop after the engagement party. Impressive work, he said, gesturing to the campaigns on his screen. The Thompson and Reed campaign especially. It should be. I won a silver anvil for it. I placed my phone on his desk, recordings ready. His smile faltered. I don't understand. Ask your fiancée about her creative process. I pressed play. Martha and Renee's voices filled the room, discussing their plan to steal my work. Lucas's face drained of color as the conversation continued, revealing the loan fraud, the lies, the manipulation. There's more, I said, but he held up his hand. Stop. He stared at the portfolio, connecting dots. The pregnancy? I met his eyes. Ask her. His phone buzzed, Renee's face lighting up the screen. He declined the call. Why are you showing me this? Because someone in this family should hear the truth for once. I stood to leave. What you do with it is your choice. The door burst open. Renee rushed in, Martha close behind. They froze when they saw me. What's she doing here? Renee demanded. Lucas turned his screen toward her. Explaining your portfolio. Or should I say, Scarlett's portfolio. It's not what you think, Renee started. The baby, he cut in. Is that a lie too? Martha stepped forward. Now, Lucas, let's discuss this like family. Family? I laughed. Is that what you call this web of lies you've woven? The manipulation? The theft? You're just jealous, Renee spat. You gave up your career to play mommy. I'm actually doing something with my life. By stealing mine? I moved toward the door. You can keep the portfolio, Lucas. Consider it a wedding gift, if there still is a wedding. You vindictive bitch, Martha hissed. You've destroyed everything. No, Martha. Your lies did that. I just refuse to be part of them anymore. I paused at the door. Oh, and I've already accepted a position at Thompson and Reed. As creative director. They were quite interested in hearing how their award-winning campaign was being repurposed. I left them there, Renee crying, Martha sputtering threats, Lucas silent with revelation. In the elevator, my phone buzzed with a text from Tom, where are you? I typed back, getting my life back. Debbie and I move out tomorrow. Your choice which life you want to be part of. The elevator doors opened to sunshine. For the first time in months, I could breathe freely. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying others, it's about refusing to let them destroy you. The moving truck pulled away from our new apartment as Debbie explored her room, arranging her stuffed animals with careful precision. My phone buzzed, another missed call from Tom. The 7th today. I set my laptop on the kitchen counter, logging into my work email for the first time in 5 years. Dozens of welcome messages from Thompson and Reed filled the screen. Tomorrow, I'd step back into my old world with new armor. A knock at the door. Tom stood there, looking lost without his mother's shadow. You forgot these, he said, holding out a stack of photo albums. Did I? Or did Martha tell you to bring them as an excuse to check on us? He flinched. Lucas called off the wedding. Renee's not handling it well. That's not my problem anymore. She's pregnant, Scarlett. For real this time. I let that sink in. Still not my problem. Mom wants to apologize. She says. Stop. I held up my hand. Do you remember what you said when you proposed? That you'd always choose us, me and our future children, over everything else? He nodded, eyes down. You lied. Every day for 5 years, you chose them over us. Over Debbie. I can change, he whispered. Maybe. But I already have. I gestured to the apartment. This is what choosing us looks like, Tom. This is what protection looks like. Daddy. Debbie ran out, hugging his legs. My heart clenched, but I stayed firm. Hey, princess. He knelt, pulling something from his pocket. Look what I found in the old room. The robot. The one from that first day at Martha's. He'd saved it. Tom. It's not a peace offering, he said quickly. It's a reminder of what I almost lost. What I did lose. He handed Debbie the toy. Sometimes we keep things so tight we break them. Mommy, can Daddy stay for dinner? I looked at Tom, really looked at him. The man who'd let his family break ours. The father who still made our daughter smile. The husband who might, finally, be learning to choose. Not tonight, sweetheart. But maybe we can all have lunch next week. At the park. Tom's eyes lit with cautious hope. I'd like that. After they said goodbye, I watched Debbie play with the robot, making it dance across her new room. The toy that once symbolized control now represented something different, the possibility of change, the price of freedom. The complex nature of love and revenge. My phone buzzed with an email from Lucas, thank you for the truth. I deleted it without responding. Some truths don't need acknowledgement. They just need to be lived.
Divorcing you was the best decision I ever made. You and your child are still as pitiful as ever. I make $200,000 a year. It seems my ex-husband just wants to brag about himself. He doesn't even bother to ask about our situation. Oh, by the way, let me introduce you to someone. Hey, come here. This is my new wife, Harriet. He introduced me to his new spouse. What on earth is he thinking? Oh, that's it. Are we done here? Well then, bye-bye. Wait a minute. As I try to leave, my ex-husband blocks my path again. Hey, are you just jealous because we look happy? Just because you're poor doesn't mean you have to be so twisted. You'll end up even more miserable, you know. My ex-husband assumes I'm unhappy. I'm past being angry and now just feel disgusted. While I remain silent, my ex tries to say something else. But my son Johnny interrupts. Mom, can we fire this guy? Ha, my name is Lisa, and I am now 42 years old. I married George, my coworker at the same company, when I was 26. I continued to work after we were married but quit when I became pregnant. Later, our son Johnny was born. Now that my son has turned 7 and started elementary school, parenting has settled down a bit. I thought it might be time to start working outside the home again, so I talked to my husband about it. He agreed right away, seemingly waiting for me to suggest it. Certainly, he probably thinks it would help our household budget if I started working, but he's been rushing me about it. Have you found something yet? Not yet. I'm looking carefully. Just find something. He seems to want me to work no matter what, and when I say I'm looking for a part-time job, he suggests, if you're gonna work, why not full-time? If it seems too much, it doesn't have to be 5 days a week. How about 3 days, 8 hours each? Johnny's not completely hands-off just because he's in elementary school. He comes home early, you know, but my husband insists. Johnny can go to after-school programs. Full-time, 5 days a week would be best. He keeps recommending. He seems to want me to work long hours. I can't complain since I was the one who said I wanted to work, but I haven't worked in years, so I'm nervous. Ultimately, I'd like to get used to it gradually, even if I do work full-time. I feel bad quitting if I find it too hard after trying. Deciding to work part-time, around 20 hours a week, seemed like a reasonable compromise. Initially, my husband insisted full-time would be better for our finances, but he reluctantly agreed when I explained I'd consider it later if necessary. His concern for our financial stability was reassuring, even if his insistence on my job search felt a bit nagging at times. Still, I appreciated having a spouse who cared about our long-term security. However, my perception would soon be shattered. A few months into my part-time job, a message buzzed on my phone from a familiar name, my former colleague and current coworker of my husband's. Curious, I opened it and instantly regretted it. What? What is this supposed to mean? This can't be real. It's been a while. I saw your husband recently being very friendly with another woman. I thought you should know. The message revealed shocking details of my husband's affair, complete with incriminating photos. I was shaken to the core. The man in the pictures was unmistakably my husband, arm in arm with a stranger. Even if she had been someone I knew, their closeness was entirely inappropriate. As I struggled to comprehend the photos, another message arrived. This woman happens to be the daughter of our division manager, also employed at our company. It's disgraceful, isn't it? Everyone seems to know. It was clear my colleague relished sharing this gossip, but I thanked her and closed the messaging app, unable to process the betrayal. I had never imagined my husband capable of cheating. But suddenly, his insistence on my working long hours, even before our childcare arrangements were settled, took on a chilling new meaning. It seemed he had been creating opportunities for himself while pushing me away. Today, he was supposedly on an overnight business trip, but I suspected it was just an excuse to spend time with his mistress. When my husband returned home the next day, I couldn't hold back. "What is all this?" I demanded, showing him the incriminating photo. My husband seemed momentarily surprised but quickly regained his composure, responding defiantly, "Well, if you know, then there's no point hiding it. That's exactly what it looks like." I was taken aback. I had expected excuses, not such blunt admission. "She's the division manager's daughter, right? Her family's destined to rise in the company. Can't you see the benefits for me? Marrying her guarantees my promotion. Plus, she's younger and prettier than you." His words hit me like a blow. I had hoped for remorse, perhaps an apology that might make me reconsider for Johnny's sake. Instead, he showed no remorse, even comparing me unfavorably to his mistress. Was this truly the man I had married? Disappointed and silent, I listened as he continued. "Anyway, I think we should divorce. Sooner than planned, but it's for the best. I was going to tell you eventually, so this works out." And so we divorced. After hearing his words, there was no pretending I could continue. It was better for my sanity to swiftly settle child support, divide our property, and finalize the divorce. He agreed to the child support amount I requested and practically handed over our assets. Naturally, I gained custody of Johnny. He was set on marrying the division manager's daughter, seemingly believing money was no issue. As he left our home, he left me with parting words. "Good luck managing on a single income. You won't get wealthy that way. Unlike you, I'm stepping up to the rich league. The division manager's family has money. We probably won't cross paths again, so make do at the bottom." Those words were unimaginable from a man who had his own child. I felt a deep relief to be rid of him. Yet, while my mind settled, daily life remained a struggle. Despite receiving child support and property, savings were scant, necessitating a shift to full-time work. Sadly, I had to quit my part-time job. Johnny, though I felt guilty, would need to manage more on his own after elementary school. Adjusting to full-time work amid new challenges, I returned home to a heap of chores. Life had turned upside down. Time flew by in a whirlwind. 7 years had passed since my divorce. Yet people adapt. Johnny, now in middle school, had become remarkably responsible, perhaps due to my busyness. He took on cooking and laundry, lightening my load. Free from domestic duties and childcare, I found time for myself. Both personal and professional spheres thrived. I could confidently say, breaking up with him was a blessing. Staying married would not have led to this life. Then, at the local mall with Johnny one day, I encountered him, the man himself, George, my ex-husband. Unaware, I was approached. "Lisa, is that you? It's been a while. You've aged," he remarked. Would any sensitive person say that to someone they hadn't seen? I could tell instantly that George hadn't grown as a person at all. Within seconds of seeing him, annoyance crept in, and I retorted, "Well, you're the one who's aged a lot. I almost didn't recognize you." Honestly, George had aged considerably. 7 years had passed since our divorce, but he seemed to have aged twice as much. His hair was thinning, and his middle-aged figure was quite pronounced. Feeling it was a waste of time, I attempted to walk away, saying, "Nice to see you after so long, but I really don't have anything to discuss. Goodbye." But he blocked my path and started talking nonsense. "Hey, come on, don't be so cold. It's like a family reunion. Let's catch up." I had no interest in hearing about his life. If there was one thing that bothered me, it was that he had stopped paying child support a few years after our divorce. Child support wasn't just my right, but Johnny's right. It irritated me that he could speak so nonchalantly in front of Johnny, who was owed that money. George seemed oblivious to my mood. He continued to prattle on about his recent life, which I had no desire to hear. After our divorce, I remarried. I married the daughter of the manager who was in that picture with me. He's not just a manager anymore, He's an executive now, and I got promoted to manager myself. Things are definitely looking up for me. Honestly, I couldn't care less about George's promotions. It had nothing to do with me, and I felt no envy. All I could think was, why boast about not paying child support even after getting promoted? It seemed incredibly petty for a man in his position not to fulfill such a basic responsibility. To my dismay, George continued to boast. Divorcing you was the right choice. You and your son still look poor. I make $200,000 a year. It became clear George was only interested in flaunting his success. He didn't even attempt to ask about our lives. Most parents would be curious about their child's well-being, but he ignored Johnny, standing right in front of him. He truly was a terrible father. Oh, by the way, let me introduce you. George waved over a woman browsing clothes nearby. She approached, and I recognized her instantly. I had seen her in pictures before. George's new wife, Harriet. Meet my wife, Harriet. Quite an upgrade from you, don't you think? He introduced her with a smirk. What was he thinking? This woman had been involved with him while we were married. Though I was relieved we were no longer together, I had been deeply hurt and resentful at the time. I held no positive feelings towards her.
You'd think George, though not the brightest, would understand this, but he seemed oblivious. He must truly look down on us, lacking even basic sensitivity. Is that all? I don't have time for this. Goodbye, I said tersely, feeling thoroughly uncomfortable. I didn't even spare a glance at Harriet, let alone greet her. Just a moment, George blocked my path again as I tried to leave. There's no need for bitterness. Are you jealous because we're happy? It's not just financial poverty, it's bitterness that makes you truly miserable. George arbitrarily decided I was unhappy. Mind your own business. I'm perfectly content, so leave me alone. Dealing with you is the most unpleasant thing lately. But George didn't believe me at all and continued to meddle in my life. Well, happiness varies, but poverty isn't bliss. Don't push yourself. Remarrying under these circumstances would be impossible. As your ex-husband, I'm concerned for you. His concern seemed insincere, accompanied by a smirk. He was making a mockery of me. Glancing at Harriet beside him, she too wore a smug expression, as if relishing my discomfort. There would never be friendship between us. She thrived on looking down on others, a truly contemptible attitude. I told you, you're way better. Have some confidence, my ex-husband's words grated, leaving me to wonder if he was trying to suck up to his current wife or belittle me in comparison. Given his promotion due to her influence, it was likely he was trying to appease her at any opportunity. He truly was despicable. You're truly the lowest kind of woman. I can't believe you were ever able to marry him. His wife insulted me bluntly despite just meeting. It was the height of rudeness. I wanted to leave before I could retort, but my ex-husband blocked my path, trapping me in place. Just so you know, we're still madly in love, so don't even think about us getting back together. It's not happening, my ex-husband deluded himself aloud. Even after 7 years since our divorce due to his affair, he still thought I held some attachment to him. His delusions left me speechless. He seemed convinced of his own fantasies. Hey, too stunned to say anything. It's tough being this popular, he remarked callously. Popular. A middle-aged man boasting about popularity. My anger gave way to disgust. Before I could respond, Johnny cut in abruptly. Mom, can you fire this guy? Ha! My ex-husband was dumbfounded by Johnny's unexpected remark. It seemed Johnny was furious, addressing him as this guy rather than Dad. Well, whatever. What's that supposed to mean? I'm not getting fired, am I? You're in middle school now. Focus on your studies, he dismissed Johnny arrogantly. It was unforgivable to mock my beloved son like that. I was on the verge of exploding with anger when I heard someone calling my name. Hey, what's going on here? A man approached, calling out. My ex-husband froze when he saw the man's face. Why are you here, boss? He nervously questioned the man. I'm just here shopping with my family. Is there a problem with that? The man replied calmly. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way, but I was just wondering why you were talking to my ex-wife, my ex-husband stammered. Oh, that's natural. She's my wife now, the man said casually. What? Her? You're married to her, boss? I can't believe. My ex-husband trailed off, clearly flustered. In fact, 3 years ago, I remarried the CEO of my late husband's company with whom I had grown close after my divorce.
We had met again while shopping at the supermarket, recalling our previous acquaintance from when I worked at the same company as my ex-husband. The CEO had known about my ex-husband's affair with his department head's daughter, which had led to our divorce and subsequent marriage to her. The CEO harbored some bitterness about this situation as a colleague, but had refrained from intervening in an employee's personal affairs until he unexpectedly encountered me. I was pleasantly surprised that the CEO remembered me, although I had been just a receptionist at the company. It seemed he recalled me easily due to our interactions at work. "It seems your marriage didn't work out, but I'm sure you'll find someone better soon," the CEO remarked empathetically. "CEO, I appreciate that you remember me, but please don't worry about me. I'm doing all right," I replied, trying to maintain composure. At that time, I had been divorced for less than a year, so I was putting on a brave front. However, the CEO, with his extensive life experience, saw through my facade and offered comforting words. "Divorce takes more emotional effort than marriage itself. Even if it was relatively smooth, it's still draining. I've never been divorced, but losing my wife to death left me utterly unmotivated. When two people who once loved each other go separate ways, it's a difficult journey."
"So you don't have to pretend to be strong," he said sincerely. The CEO understood the loneliness and emotional turmoil that comes with the end of a marriage. While I was relieved to be out of my previous relationship, I was also grappling with feelings of loneliness and emptiness at the time. His words resonated deeply with me. "If you ever need someone to talk to, feel free to call me anytime. I'd be happy to treat you to dinner," he offered, handing me his business card. Initially, I hesitated to reach out for almost 2 years, feeling it might be too forward. However, as time passed and my emotions settled, I found myself longing for someone to confide in. Finally, I decided to contact the CEO. Despite his busy schedule, he made time for me and treated me to dinner. When I was his employee, the CEO had an air of unapproachability, being the son of the previous CEO and a department head. Yet over dinner, I discovered a different side to him, a kind and approachable demeanor, almost like a supportive uncle. Perhaps because I was no longer an employee, the CEO and I quickly became close friends over drinks. Then, about a year later, the CEO proposed to me with a serious expression. "You're kidding, Steve. Don't joke like that," I responded, initially thinking it was a jest given our relaxed setting. But the CEO was sincere. "At first, I wanted to support you after your divorce, but being with you has brought me a sense of peace I haven't felt since I lost my wife. Honestly, I feel like I'm the one being healed now. If you're willing, let's spend the rest of our lives together." "Give me a day to think about it," I requested, wanting to consult with my son. "I don't mind, Mom. You should decide based on whether you like him or not," Johnny reassured me. With no objections from Johnny, I decided to marry the CEO. Truthfully, I had developed feelings for him. Initially, I thought of him as a drinking companion, but being with him genuinely brought me comfort and joy. We both found solace in each other's company, and I believed we could build a happy life together. Hearing about the CEO's late wife, I understood the depth of his love for her. Each time he spoke of her, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of envy for the love they shared. It made me realize how fortunate I was to find someone who cherished me in the same way. And so, we became happily married. The CEO showered Johnny with love and affection, treating him as his own. Perhaps because he had no children from his previous marriage, their bond grew deep, resembling that of a biological father and son. I finally found the happiness I had yearned for, just as I had confidently told my ex-husband. When my ex-husband learned that I had married the CEO, his face drained of color. He never expected that the man marrying his poor ex-wife, whom he had looked down upon, would turn out to be the CEO. "Dad, this man insulted Mom." "Fire him," Johnny declared to the CEO, without an ounce of mercy towards my ex-husband. "Idiot. No, Johnny, what are you talking about? We were just chatting." My ex-husband tried to smooth things over, but it was clear to the CEO. "You have a reputation for looking down on people in the company. Johnny's accusation may hold weight. I've heard troubling rumors about your conduct from your subordinates. I will conduct an investigation, so prepare yourself," the CEO responded firmly. I never expected the CEO to take Johnny's words seriously and initiate an internal investigation. My ex-husband hastily apologized to the CEO. "I'm sorry. I might have been too harsh towards your wife. Could you please reconsider the investigation?" he pleaded, drawing attention in the crowded shopping mall.
His desperation bordered on an admission of guilt, but the CEO remained resolute. No, the investigation will proceed. By the way, your close associate, the executive, also has a tarnished reputation. Both of you will be thoroughly investigated, the CEO stated. Upon hearing this, my ex-husband's wife also apologized, attempting to mitigate the situation. No, please focus on him alone. My father should not be involved. If you must investigate, let it be him alone, she insisted. This sparked an immediate argument between my ex-husband and his wife. What do you mean? Are you planning to abandon me? Don't be ridiculous, he protested. Some things are more important than you. My father's reputation matters, she retorted sharply. It was an embarrassing lover's spat unfolding publicly. Eager to avoid further association, Johnny and I quietly left the store, leaving them to their dispute. Their selfishness was bound to cause them trouble, but it was entirely of their own making. The next day, the CEO promptly assembled a team to investigate my ex-husband and the executive's conduct at work. What surfaced was alarming. Reports of harassment towards subordinates, frequent verbal abuse, favoritism, and worst of all, coercing clients into entertainment obligations. These infractions had accumulated over many years, demonstrating the flagrant misuse of their positions for personal gain. Such behavior was utterly unacceptable in modern times, a stark contrast to ethical standards. My ex-husband and the executive faced demotions, both reassigned to a branch office in Nebraska. Their apologies in the shopping mall hinted at their awareness of wrongdoing, an acknowledgement that bordered on malice for knowingly committing such acts. Their prospects for future promotions dimmed, and eventually, they chose to resign from the company under pressure from the CEO. Fear of retaliation from aggrieved employees, coupled with their tarnished reputations, sealed their fate as ordinary workers. Their departure didn't mark the end, but rather the beginning of legal troubles. Employees they had harassed filed lawsuits, bolstered by widespread disdain towards the duo. Overwhelming evidence led to decisive court rulings against them, resulting in substantial compensatory damages. Plunged into debt, my ex-husband's wife, once from a wealthy family, blamed him for their financial downfall. Their marriage soared under daily arguments and his misdirected frustrations, possibly leading to further legal entanglements. Witnessing my ex-husband's downfall reinforced the value of honesty and integrity in life. In contrast, I found happiness with the CEO, eventually conceiving a child at the age of 42, a late but joyful addition to our family. Johnny embraced his role as a big brother, showing remarkable care and responsibility, even nurturing the baby daily. Looking ahead, the CEO expressed hopes for Johnny's future contributions to the company, highlighting our aging but hopeful perspective on parenting. Amidst the challenges of raising another child at our age, the sight of the baby's peaceful sleep dispelled any lingering fears. Thank you for coming into our lives. I'm determined to do my best, I whispered, ready to face each new day with gratitude and resolve.
You bought this high-rise condo just to live with me. That's quite a choice for you. Well, I guess I can't avoid it now. I'll live with you then. That's great. Stop sulking and let's start getting along together, all three of us from today. What on earth are these two talking about? The individuals in front of me are my ex-husband and former mother-in-law. Yes, we've been divorced for some time now. My former mother-in-law, who claims she did everything for my sake, has always had an egocentric personality, never considering how burdened I felt, always dumping cooking and cleaning responsibilities on me. And my ex-husband, likely influenced by his upbringing, is just as self-centered. That's why I chose to divorce. I moved without disclosing my new address to either of them, yet here they are, somehow at my new place. Soon, I would discover a surprising fact. My name is Madison. I'm a 34-year-old career woman. I've been with the same company since graduation, excelling in the sales department where I now lead several projects. I became so engrossed in the thrill of work that years slipped by without a thought for marriage or boyfriends. Finding satisfaction in achieving results and climbing the ranks without interest in shopping sprees or luxury, I diligently saved my salary and bonuses. Before I knew it, I was over 30, but neither my parents nor I felt any urgency about it, as I was thoroughly enjoying my life. Then, a certain encounter dramatically altered my life. At a college reunion I attended, I bumped into Steve, who had been in the same seminar as me years ago. Although we hadn't been particularly close during our college days,
Sitting next to each other at the reunion, we discovered that we worked for companies that collaborated with each other. Steve was handling legal affairs for a top-tier company. From discussing work, our conversations shifted to how we mentored our juniors and eventually delved into our personal lives. Finding the deep connection, Steve and I began meeting privately from that day onward and eventually started dating. Throughout our relationship, Steve was incredibly kind and a great listener, which brought me comfort and added motivation to excel at work. Less than 6 months into our relationship, we decided to tie the knot. My colleagues, friends, and even my parents were taken aback to hear that a workaholic like me was getting married, but they enthusiastically celebrated our union at a modest chapel wedding. I never envisioned myself in a wedding gown just months earlier, but the pinnacle of this marital bliss was on our wedding day itself. With limited experience in love, I harbored naive dreams about married life, but reality soon proved harsh. On a rare day off, I fell ill and was confined to bed. Steve expressed concern, saying, "Just rest. I'm hungry though. I'll be in the living room playing games." With dizziness and a pounding headache, I sensed something amiss but could only lie there. As I dozed off, my phone rang. "Mom, what's up?" No, I'm okay." It was my mother-in-law calling. "Madison isn't feeling well." Even from the bedroom, I could hear Steve's voice. "Oh really? Don't worry, I'll tell her to get up right away." "Yes, I'll wait." It appeared my mother-in-law intended to visit. Despite discussing my health, she planned to come over, and Steve seemed fine with it. He even suggested waking me up. I could have forced myself to get up, but I needed rest on my day off to recover. Even though Madison isn't feeling well, I couldn't shake my disappointment with Steve's acceptance of the visit. "Madison, hurry up. Mom's coming over soon. She said it'll only be a short visit, and it'd be rude to turn her away. Come out and say hello to Mom. You're free anyway, right?" "Didn't I say I'm not feeling well and want to stay in bed?" "It'll be fine, just for a little while." What's right about this situation? Even so, if my mother-in-law is coming over, it's not like I, as her daughter-in-law, can stay in bed. I had been bedridden since morning, so no cleaning had been done. Last night's dinner mess, the cluttered living room, and even the laundry had been left untouched. Steve never lifts a finger to help with the housework. Somehow, I managed to muster the strength to get up and clean and tidy up in the hour before my mother-in-law arrived. All the while Steve continued playing his games, seemingly unaffected. It's quicker to do it myself than to be slowed down by his half-hearted help, but I wish he had at least made the gesture of offering to help. By the time I had done the bare minimum cleaning and readied myself, my mother-in-law arrived. Steve greeted her warmly. "Mom wants tea. It's almost lunchtime, so could you take care of lunch for me and Mom? You're going to eat, right, Mom?" "Yes, I'll have some. I brought your favorite strawberry cake for dessert, so let's enjoy it together."
And just like that, no consideration was given to how I was feeling. The conversation between my husband and mother-in-law unfolded as if I wasn't there, and I sat beside them, enduring the headache and dizziness. In the end, my mother-in-law didn't leave even by evening, staying for dinner too. I started preparing without showing any irritation. Finally, after she left for an appointment with her friends in the evening, I collapsed into bed without exchanging a word with Steve or cleaning up. From the beginning, Steve always prioritized his mother, often putting her wishes first. With his father already passed away, he would express concern. "I'm worried about Mom. She must be lonely," and frequently visit her place. He also never missed a chance to give her seasonal gifts. Initially, I found his care for his mother endearing, but I soon realized my mistake. His mother always came first, her word was law, and the number of nights he spent at her place steadily increased. It was always about Mom. With Mom, for Mom, whatever it was, it revolved around her. Yes, Steve was what you might call a mama's boy. Comparisons between me and his mother became routine. Moreover, every outing seemed to end at her house. Just 6 months into our marriage, my husband was already neglecting me, spending all his free time with his mother. His mother seemed to excessively dote on her son, and despite dreaming of a happy married life, I found myself increasingly alone as her presence overshadowed our relationship. There was a clear reason why my mother-in-law couldn't let go of her son: money. She had a serious spending habit, not just on coffee or outings with friends, but on lavish travels and designer shopping sprees. As a result, she frequently turned to Steve for financial support.
"I just need $2,000 this month," she'd say shamelessly, and Steve would always hand it over without question. Soon enough, her demands for money began affecting me too. "Madison, I need you to come up with $4,000 by tomorrow." "What? What on earth do you need $4,000 for?" "I have a trip planned for next month, so I'm counting on you." It was a demand I had never heard even from my own parents. Raised with strict principles about borrowing and lending money, I was shocked by her assumption that not paying it back was the norm. "That's out of the question. I'm not giving you a single penny," I stood firm. "I'm not asking for charity." "Don't be so tight-fisted." "Fine, Steve will give it to me." Every time she asked, Steve would simply give in. That was why she doted on him so much. "Mom needs help. It's only right to lend a hand," was Steve's response whenever I raised concerns. "Steve earns well, and we both work, so we each contribute a set amount each month and manage our own finances. Beyond that, I have no idea how much Steve saves or what he spends it on, but what started with a few $100s for his mom has now ballooned into thousands. There could be financial dealings going on that I'm not aware of. If this continues, it could seriously impact our household finances." "Hey Steve, don't you think we should increase our savings each month, especially considering our future and potentially having children? And eventually, I'd like us to buy our own home. If I had that kind of money, I'd give it to my mom." "Madison, you should also contribute and help my mom out each month," he insisted. "I doubt he's saving anything. To my mother-in-law, I'm just an unpaid maid when I visit." The house left by my father-in-law is impressive and spacious. I've taken on everything from cooking and cleaning to gardening and window washing. Despite being married, I complied without complaint. "Madison, I hate to keep asking, but my legs are getting weak, and I can't clean anymore." She's out and about every day. What is she even saying? I smiled politely at my mother-in-law, thinking this to myself. She just enjoys bossing me around. My oblivious husband neither helps me nor sees the need to, convinced instead that his mother is tawning me up to be a good wife. Then Steve said something unbelievable. "It seems like Madison's mom didn't have much time to take care of her, teach her how to clean or cook. Will you teach her the ropes?" "Sure. My parents ran a rice mill back home and were busy every day. But even so, my mom always made time for me and my dad too. They could have had me help out, being an only child and all, but they let me play and pursue my interests. Children aren't tools for labor. Do what you love, they always say." So different from my mother-in-law. Finally, I stood up to Steve for the sake of my parents who cried tears of joy at our wedding, and for my own sake. "What are you talking about? My mom took great care of me."
Don't you think there's something wrong with what your mom is saying? Can someone who's too frail to clean go out and travel every day? She's just shoving her housework onto me. "I refuse to do your family's chores anymore. I don't want to come here again." The response I got from Steve was filled with anger. "How can you say such awful things about my mom? She's just trying to make you into a proper wife. You're demonizing her without a shred of gratitude. If you're going to talk like that, we might as well get a divorce." With that, Steve yelled, shocking me, pulled out a divorce paper from his bag, filled it out, and threw it at me. "How about that? I'm serious. If you apologize to me and my mom, maybe I'll forgive you. If you don't want to get divorced, apologize right now." "That's right. You be the one in trouble if Steve left you. Apologize now." He's rooted in old-fashioned values. In his world, a wife is below her husband and mother-in-law, expected to obey their every command. Standing up to one's husband is unthinkable. He assumes that threatening divorce will make a wife beg with tears and apologize. But I was certain this marriage was no longer bringing me happiness, nor was it going to get any better. Seeing me silent, Steve smirked and tucked the divorce paper back into his bag. "Reflect on this while I'm away on my business trip." The next day, as Steve left for his trip, he left the divorce paper on the table. I didn't waste any time. I signed my name and ran to the courthouse to file it right away. Then, I called my job and took some urgent personal days to start reverting to my maiden name and sorting out my affairs. I wanted to wrap up as much as possible while Steve was away. On the day the divorce was finalized, Steve came home. "I've already filed for divorce," I said when I handed him the envelope from the city hall. His face turned bright red with anger, and he yelled, "Do you really want to put us through all this trouble? Divorce isn't something you just do on a whim. Submitting a divorce paper just because you didn't get your way is beyond a joke. It's too much."
It seemed like he thought I had filed for divorce on a mere whim. I decided to play along with his words. Well, it's because you always prioritize your mom over me. I'm never a part of the conversation, even when we're all together. I'm always alone, feeling lonely. Why do you exclude me? Although I was only pretending to sulk, it seemed to have an effect on him. He loves it when women appear to be needy towards him. Despite my bold actions, I must have appeared like a seasoned actress to him. My husband, completely taken in by my performance, cheerfully agreed to a financial settlement that was advantageous to me. He believes that once I've calmed down, we can simply remarry and return to our old life. But my feelings for him have faded. I divorced him to take care of myself. There's no going back to life with him. Regarding the typically contentious matter of financial settlement in a divorce, my husband didn't contest it and allowed it to end in my favor. Once everything was settled, I moved out of the house. During my search for a new place, I fell in love with a high-rise condo near my workplace and after careful consideration, decided to purchase it. It's a fresh start in life. I wanted some luxury in my home to enjoy my solitude, which is exactly what I'm doing now. After a day at work, I return home to my own space with no one to care for or accommodate. I've resumed my old hobby of knitting. I brew my favorite tea and knit before bed, which is truly relaxing and enjoyable. Then one day, my ex-husband and former mother-in-law appeared at my condo. Of course, I hadn't given them my address. I hesitated over the intercom, unable to find the right words as my mother-in-law caused a scene at the entrance, calling out my name. Reluctantly, to avoid disturbing my neighbors, I let them in through the front door. How did you find out where I live? Oh, we hired a private investigator. We forgot to ask you where you moved. We were worried about how you were doing, and Mom had it looked into, he said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. After a divorce, there was no way I would have told them where I moved, yet here they were, invading my privacy with a private investigator. A chill ran down my spine. I desperately tried to think of a way to get rid of this mother and son. Despite her age, my mother-in-law acted like a young girl, shamelessly peering into my home, craning her neck and squatting to get a better look. Just as I was about to reprimand her, she unexpectedly blurted out something. It's not as bad as I imagined. Did you buy this high-rise condo to live with me? You picked a nicer place than I thought. Well, I guess I'll have to move in with you then. Great, no more sulking from today on. We'll all live together happily, my ex-husband chimed in with a grin.
What? What is she talking about? Moving in here? I was dumbfounded. The idea of them suggesting to live with me hadn't crossed my mind, and I couldn't fathom why they would propose such a thing. I stood there pondering how to respond, unsettled by the unnerving smile on my mother-in-law's face and the beaming grin of my ex-husband beside her. I absolutely refuse. Please leave immediately. I don't expect your forgiveness. We are strangers now. Our connection is over. Please do not return, I replied firmly. My ex-husband seemed taken aback, evidently expecting me to agree. What? Why? You're serious? Didn't you buy this place wanting to live with Mom? Please don't say such things. I thought I was doing this for your sake. Clearly, they anticipated a different response. Their surprise at my rejection was evident. Whatever misunderstandings you have, I don't know, but I bought this condo for myself. Please stop making assumptions, I clarified. I'm offering you my forgiveness, my ex-husband retorted. In his mind, I was stubbornly causing trouble. His demeanor turned arrogant, as if forgiving me was a favor. If things stay like this, you'll end up alone here for the rest of your life. You know you'll be alone forever. Yes, that's what I want. You're not welcome in my home. Please leave. We are no longer family. It's over. Do not return, I reiterated firmly. But my ex-husband seemed unwilling to accept my stance. He viewed me as stubborn and refused to understand my words. Disregarding my objections, he pushed past me and entered the house as I tried to close the door. Being pushed by my ex-husband, a man I couldn't resist, I stumbled into the hallway and let out an involuntary scream. Shortly after, a neighbor opened their door, alarmed by the noise. My ex-husband and his mother hurried inside, looking perplexed. I asked the neighbor, please call the police, I pleaded. What are you talking about? He said. For me, this is trespassing. I called 911 myself. Please come quickly. Since the call came from the same place, a police car arrived promptly. Come in, the neighbor said kindly, letting me into the entrance and locking the door to protect me from my ex-husband. Are you okay? They asked gently. Meanwhile, my ex-husband banged on the door violently, shouting,
No, it's not like that. I'm her husband. I just came to visit my wife. My mother-in-law was also furious in the hallway. Hey, don't touch my mom. Madison, say something. Because you wouldn't even tell us your address, we had to dig it up ourselves. You not only tarnished my son's reputation, but you're treating me terribly too. What a horrible daughter-in-law you are. Apologize right now. Their loud voices echoed through the hallway. Since it was a weekend morning, many residents were likely at home. Doors began to open one by one, and the commotion drew onlookers out into the hall. Luckily for me, despite being new to the apartment complex, I had always made an effort to attend meetings and was known for my consideration despite my youth. Consequently, I had already established a trusting relationship with the other residents, despite the disturbance caused by my ex-husband's sudden appearance. I wasn't shunned. Instead, everyone was kind, asking if I was okay and if I needed help. Based on the testimonies from neighbors and other residents, my ex-husband and his mother were taken away by the police for trespassing. Despite the inconvenience, the neighbor who called the police said, "I work in the legal field, so I know a lawyer who specializes in stalking cases. I'll introduce you." And true to his word, he did. Reflecting on it, my ex-husband used to work in legal affairs, yet he seems completely oblivious to the laws he's breaking. I doubt he'll ever realize it. A few weeks after the incident, an old friend from college contacted me. She mentioned seeing my ex-husband happily walking with a young child and asked when he had become a father. Since I hadn't told her about my divorce, she assumed the child was mine. It hasn't been long since the incident. Could it be that my husband, supposed to be reconciling with me, has already found a new partner? That's his choice, and it's no concern of mine. If he does have a new partner, perhaps his obsession with me will fade. But a young child caught my attention. Would my mother-in-law ever approve of a relationship with a woman who already has children? I instructed my attorney to conduct further investigations into his background. A reputable detective agency engaged by the law firm took on the task. What they uncovered was shocking. My ex-husband had been cheating on me long before our divorce. Despite my feelings having long since faded, I never imagined he betrayed me from the beginning.
All those weekends he spent with his mother, ostensibly fulfilling family obligations, were likely cover for seeing his mistress. His mother's behavior seemed to corroborate his story, leaving me with no reason to doubt him. But in reality, he was deceiving me. My heart churned with turmoil. To my ex-husband, every woman is beneath him except his mother, who reigns supreme in his life. He seems to think it's acceptable to disrespect or belittle any other woman, including his wife, while maintaining appearances. The revelation of my ex-husband's ongoing affair, coupled with his insistence on reconciling with me while maintaining his relationship with his mistress, reflects his skewed perspective. As I digested the investigative report, it became clear that despite having no intentions of marriage, he misled his mistress with promises of a future, keeping her hopeful and the affair alive. Then there's the young child I learned about, my ex-husband's legitimate child with his mistress. He had been leading a double life, maintaining two families simultaneously with a child born during our marriage. The report left me feeling more sickened than saddened or enraged. Acting on my attorney's advice, I swiftly pivoted to filing for damages due to the affair, a legal action allowable within 3 years of discovering infidelity. There was no room for dwelling on emotions. My feelings for him had long evaporated, and I couldn't afford to waste any more time on such deceit. I methodically prepared my case while simultaneously pursuing damages from his mistress for her role in the affair. Learning of my ex-husband's audacity, seeking reconciliation with me while implying marriage to his mistress, filled me with fury. I'll pursue charges for marriage fraud. He'll never see that child again, I resolved. I had expected tearful nights, yet I discovered he had siphoned a substantial sum from me under false pretenses, ostensibly for their wedding fund. Unsurprisingly, the money found its way into my mother-in-law's hands, feeding her insatiable spending habits. Steve's attempt to placate his mother amidst our turmoil involved fulfilling her dream of an extravagant overseas cruise. He spared no expense, booking the finest accommodations. Emily uncovered this misappropriation and swiftly added fraud charges to the legal saga, demanding reparations for the affair, child support, and now, financial deception. My ex-husband, always dependent on his mother for money, had no savings to speak of. His financial troubles escalated to the point where their grand family home was seized, yet his debts continued to mount.
After paying me damages in a lump sum, we became completely estranged. However, Emily's situation with my ex differs slightly because they share a young child. He had initially agreed to pay child support monthly, but those payments soon fell into arrears. Emily, furious at his negligence, stormed into his workplace and exposed everything. Despite ongoing legal battles, he had also been engaging in misconduct with female colleagues, which he had kept hidden amidst his fraud trial. Emily's confrontation led to his swift demotion to a less prominent role, and unable to endure the whispers and shame, he resigned on his own. With debts looming and child support obligations unmet, he desperately sought new employment. However, his tainted reputation, compounded by fraud charges, made it impossible for him to secure even an interview. Realizing his dire situation, he now juggles 3 physically demanding jobs, pushing himself to the limit with little rest. Meanwhile, his mother, witnessing her son's legal and financial downfall, disappeared to avoid any entanglement. Abandoning him completely, she left him to face his troubles alone. His mother's own financial woes grew as her reckless spending caught up with her. Without a stable home and burdened by mounting debts, she resorted to borrowing but struggled to keep up with repayments, now under scrutiny from less than savory creditors. In contrast, I immersed myself in my role as a sales manager, taking on challenging projects and achieving remarkable results. With newfound independence, I also found time to pursue further studies. My expertise garnered the trust of clients, leading to a substantial increase in company sales. Recognized for my contributions, I earned a promotion to the company's first female executive, with prospects for further advancement on the horizon. Despite these achievements, I remain grounded. While friends suggest blind dates, I decline, preferring to focus on my hobbies and educational pursuits. Embracing my newfound single life, I am determined to live on my terms, pursuing what I love and maintaining my dignity. I look forward to a future where mutual respect is possible with someone special. I quietly reflect, keeping that hope close to my heart for now.
I can't leave my mother alone. I'm worried about my father. Can you please drive? Take us to the hospital, I pleaded. Bob stared at me for a moment, then nodded. All right, he said quietly, starting to prepare. Thank you, I replied gratefully, hurrying to get ready as well. Together, we headed to the hospital in Bob's car. As we drove deeper into the woods, Bob suddenly pulled over. Something doesn't feel right with the car. I'm sorry, could you check the front tire? He asked. I stepped out, closing the door behind me. As I inspected the tire, confusion struck me. Wait, what are you doing? I called out as Bob started the car without letting me back in. He quickly pulled onto the opposite lane, tossing my bag out of the window towards me. That's for waking me up in the middle of the night. Bob smirked, speeding away and disappearing from sight in moments. 2 hours later, I arrived at the hospital to find Bob critically injured. My name is Catherine Thompson, 24 years old. After graduating from college, I worked at a major corporation until I met Bob, a senior colleague whom I eventually married. Bob was charming, intelligent, and athletic, a dream man for many. I had admired him from afar, like many of my female coworkers, imagining what it would be like to be close to him. The thrill of seeing him in the office or being chosen for a project he led was exhilarating. Then, unexpectedly, Bob approached me after I was transferred to his department. It started with work discussions, but soon we were spending more time together. Before long, we were dating, and soon after, we were married. I had adored Bob to the heavens, but there was always a lingering question in my mind. Why me? When he proposed, I couldn't help but ask, Bob, why did you choose me? His smile was warm as he replied, because you loved me the most. It embarrassed me, yet filled me with joy to hear that. It felt like validation, as if he truly understood and accepted the depth of my feelings. However, after we were married, Bob's reason seemed to shift. He once said to me, I married you because you were my #1 fan. You saw how great I am and made the right choice. It sounded similar, yet somehow different. I couldn't quite grasp it at the time, but as the years passed, that discomfort solidified into something I couldn't ignore. If only I had understood it sooner, perhaps I wouldn't have endured so much. Bob seemed perfect on the surface as long as I didn't upset him. After we married and started living together, I noticed a change. He became increasingly critical of me over small things, like the consistency of breakfast eggs or the ironing of his shirts.
Sometimes, he'd unexpectedly quiz me on complex topics, disappointed if I couldn't provide a satisfactory answer. Whether it was about morning routines, prompt responses to messages, the strength of coffee, or even a single hair in the sink, Bob would meticulously point out every detail. His voice remained calm, but each word felt deliberate, ensuring I understood his dissatisfaction. Listen, he would say, I'm telling you this for your own good so you could be a wife who reflects well on me and doesn't embarrass herself in front of others. If you just follow my instructions, you won't go wrong. This routine repeated itself until I would relent with, yes, I understand. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Once he sensed my genuine remorse, he'd dismissively say, all right, just be more careful next time. I found myself constantly tiptoeing around him. Day and night, I monitored Bob's moods, kept the house impeccable, and served flawless meals. Avoiding his criticism consumed my thoughts entirely. As my awareness grew, Bob would comment, Catherine, appearance matters. Lately, you look so tired. What would people think? Always present yourself well as my wife. He insisted on buying me expensive clothes, makeup, and spa treatments. Ironically, money was the least of my concerns, thanks to Bob's wealth. I strained to maintain my appearance to his standards, and in return, I heard comments like, Catherine, you're so lucky to have such a wonderful husband. I envy you. I wish my spouse were like Bob. Oh, how I wish I could trade places with you. I might have echoed those sentiments from an outsider's view, but the reality was a living nightmare. If only someone could trade places with me, I wished desperately. Desperately following Bob's orders, 2 years slipped by unnoticed. Beneath my smiling facade, I felt myself slowly fading away. Then, one night, my smartphone shattered the silence with its shrill ringtone, jolting me back to reality. I snatched up the phone, casting a quick glance at Bob, who stirred irritably beside me. It was my mom calling. Huh? What's wrong? Oh, Catherine, it's your father. Mom's voice trembled over the line. My dad had suffered a heart attack and was in surgery. What? Dad. Her sobs pierced through the phone. I understand. I'm on my way. I hung up and turned to Bob, urgency in my voice. It's my dad. I need to go to the hospital. Can you drive me? Bob stared at me in silence. Surely, even Bob would recognize the gravity of the situation. Though I had a license, I wasn't allowed to drive his car. I can't leave my mom alone. I'm really worried about Dad. Please, can you drive me to the hospital? After a tense moment, Bob finally nodded, getting up to dress. Thank you. I hurriedly prepared myself, and we set off to the hospital in Bob's car. The hospital was only 7 to 8 miles away, a 10 to 15-minute drive down the main road. However, Bob chose to take a shortcut through a side road. It's late. This way should be quicker, he explained. Okay, I replied, grateful that Bob was trying to get me to the hospital swiftly. Despite his tough exterior, I believed deep down he cared for me. As we drove through the side road, surrounded by trees, I remembered Bob mentioning how scenic this route was during our drives. Suddenly, Bob pulled the car over. The car seems off. Can you check the front tire? He asked abruptly. I stepped out and closed the passenger door behind me. But then, to my surprise, Bob started the car without me inside. It moved a short distance forward, then reversed, turned around, and returned to where I stood, bewildered. I have an important presentation tomorrow, and now I've been woken up at this hour, Bob muttered irritably. He parked on the opposite side of the road, hurried towards me, and tossed my bag out through the open window. That's your punishment for waking me up in the middle of the night, Bob sneered, his expression unsettling. With that, he sped off in the original direction, disappearing from view in moments. The location was a secluded spot in a not-so-deep forest, and the time was nearing 2 a.m. Normally, one would feel helpless and might even cry in such a situation, but somehow, I felt relieved. In the pitch-black forest, I walked straight towards the hospital, a distance of about 6 miles. All I could think about was reaching my parents as quickly as possible. I couldn't care less about Bob's angry face. I wouldn't mind if I never saw him again. When he threw my bag at me, I almost broke down in tears, wondering why he would do such a thing. Did I mess up again? Did I upset Bob? I should apologize quickly. But I couldn't think of what to apologize for. What on earth had I done wrong? Bob, in his callousness, provided the answer. It's punishment for waking me up in the middle of the night. If I had woken Bob for some trivial reason, it would be my fault. But my father was in critical condition, undergoing emergency surgery. and my mother was anxiously waiting at the hospital. Bob didn't care about my need to be with them as soon as possible. To him, his work tomorrow was more important than anything else. Even if he didn't care about my feelings or my parents, he could have just told me to go to the hospital alone. Instead, he pretended to drive me there, then lied and left me stranded in the dark forest. Such actions were beyond normal. It was a rude awakening for me. When I first met Bob, I imagined him as a prince from a fairy tale, and marrying him felt like living that dream. But that dream turned into a nightmare. The real-life prince was nothing but a selfish person. It was all about him. He even admitted that the reason he married me was because I was his biggest admirer. In other words, he chose the easiest person to manipulate, all to satisfy his ego. I thought I was loved and chosen by Bob and tried my hardest to be a good wife to him. But now I don't care anymore. In that forest, I found my freedom. I can't go back to that cage anymore, and I have no intention to. What did I even find appealing in such a superficial person who doesn't even seem human? As I hurried through the forest, these thoughts ran through my mind. After about 2 hours of walking, I finally reached the hospital. At the emergency entrance, I informed the staff that my father had been brought in by ambulance and was undergoing surgery. The security guard checked the name I provided and asked me to sign the visitors list. Once done, he handed me a visitor's badge. I put it around my neck and rushed to the central operation room where my mom was waiting. The only sound echoing in the dimly lit corridor was the click-clack of my heels. 2 hours had passed since then. I wondered how my dad was doing and how my mom was holding up. Naturally, I quickened my pace. The exhaustion from the long walk seemed to vanish. After turning a few corners, I saw my mom sitting under a dim light on a sofa. "Mom." "Catherine." As I called out to her, she looked up with tears streaming down her face. My heart sank. "Is something wrong with Dad?"
I sat down next to her on the sofa, and she said, No, I just felt relieved seeing your face. Your dad is still in surgery." You startled me. I felt a rush of blood from my heart, and all my strength drained away. After waiting a bit longer, the lights in the operating room finally went off. We were informed by the surgeon that the operation was successful. It would take some time for his condition to stabilize, but for now, the danger had passed. My mother and I shed tears of relief together. My father was taken to the ICU on a stretcher. He was still asleep, but I was truly relieved to see his face resting peacefully. Together with my mother, we followed to the ICU and watched over him as he was transferred to his bed. Now, there's nothing more we can do. We're just waiting for Dad to wake up and recover. I need to make sure Mom gets some rest. The 2 hours before I arrived must have been so lonely for her. Thinking about it made me angry at Bob. I took Mom to the vending machine area and bought her a warm tea. "Here, drink this to calm down," I said, handing her the tea. "Thank you." My mother opened a can of coffee and took a sip, seeming to finally calm down. Seeing her relax made me feel better too. As we sat in the coffee area before dawn, a nurse approached us. "Excuse me, are you Catherine Thompson, wife of Bob Thompson?" Oh yes, that's me." The nurse had seen the name I filled out in the visitor's book and wondered if it might be me. "Last night around 2 a.m., your husband was brought in by ambulance. We tried contacting the number your husband provided multiple times, but we couldn't reach you." I hurriedly took out my phone from my bag. When I got in the car, I had muted it, thinking I'd be at the hospital shortly. I remembered setting it that way, not wanting to waste any time adjusting settings when I got to the hospital. I saw several missed calls from an unknown number, which turned out to be this hospital's. Bob must have thought that I wouldn't go to the hospital and would just follow him home, so he provided both our home and my mobile number. He probably never imagined that I, left alone in the woods in the middle of the night, would walk over 6 miles to the hospital. I explained that my father was also being treated here, apologized for missing the calls, and inquired about Bob's condition. Apparently, after leaving me behind, Bob had an accident on his way home. He's alive, but both his legs are broken and he needs surgery. That's why they had been trying to reach me. I asked my mother to wait while I went to see Bob. "It's quite something, having both your husband and father in here at the same time," the nurse said to me with a sympathetic look. But I'd only felt sorry for my father. I couldn't care less about what happens to Bob. Of course, I have no intention of taking care of him. However, there was no need to say such things to someone who didn't know the situation, so I just smiled vaguely. By some stroke of luck,
Bob was having surgery in the operating room next to my father's, and he was in a private room near the ICU. There was a nameplate at the room entrance that read, Mr. Bob Thompson. It's the best private room, and apparently it was Bob's request. I entered the room with the nurse who had shown me the way. Bob was suspended with both legs immobilized, looking utterly pitiable. As he tried to speak to me, he realized I wasn't alone and said, I'm sorry for putting you through this, especially with your father in such a state. I'm glad you came, nurse. I apologized for the trouble, with a forced smile. When the nurse left and we were alone, Bob's face took on that lecturing look he always had. Where the hell have you been? Why didn't you answer the phone right away? I've been stuck here, struggling. Tell me, where have you been? He demanded in an accusatory tone. Where do you think? You told me my father had surgery, right? Obviously, I was at the hospital. Bob looked genuinely shocked by my response. What's with that tone? Haven't I always told you to speak politely and gracefully? I won't tolerate such language, he chastised, quickly regaining his composure. He still seemed to think he had the upper hand. Why should I be so polite to you? To someone who deceived me and left me in a forest in the middle of the night? I don't feel the need to show such consideration. What did you say? Bob glared at me, saying, Is that how you address your master? In a calm yet restrained voice full of anger. Master, I see. He's always thought of himself that way. His attitude wasn't that of a husband to a wife, but of a master to a servant. But I'm not a servant anymore. I reclaimed myself in that forest. I confidently retorted. I don't have a master. I'm a free person.
Seeing my firm stance, Bob's face contorted in visible anger. Is that what someone who's been taken care of should say? Well, is that what someone who's been cared for should say? What? Ah, perhaps shocked by my words, Bob jerked, causing pain in his immobilized legs and letting out a cry of pain. I coldly looked down at Bob, his legs fixed in place, unable to do anything, his face twisted in pain and drenched in sweat. Guess you got what was coming to you, I said, a chuckle naturally following my words. I laughed, and Bob cried. The roles had reversed. The thought made me laugh even harder. What's so funny? It's all your fault I'm in this mess. Don't you feel guilty? Bob asked cheerfully but still defiant. My fault? No, I think it's someone who left his wife in a forest and hurried home. Serves you right, I countered. Bob looked at me in disbelief, a mix of shock and fear in his eyes. His wife, who had always been obedient and looked up to him with admiration, was now confronting him with cold words and glances as if he were a stranger. He looked disturbed, his eyes darting around. I realized he was just a small, insignificant man. I felt ashamed for having feared and acted so subserviently to this man for so long. We should break up, I spoke firmly. I don't see any point in being married to you anymore. I'll wait until you're discharged from the hospital, so please prepare yourself. In the meantime, I'll pack up our stuff at home. Don't be ridiculous. I'm never gonna leave you. Do you realize how much time and effort I've put into this relationship? Bob winced in pain as he moved, became silent, tears distorting his face. Do you have anything else to say? If you do, now's the time. What will it be? Despite my words, Bob just continued to cry, unable to respond. Nothing then. All right, I have to go care for my father. Take care and goodbye. I left the room, leaving Bob groaning in pain. Later that day, my father woke up. Holding hands with my mother, tears of joy streamed down our faces. Although it would take time for him to be discharged from the ICU and be mobile, it was a relief to know he was stable. I returned to my family home with my mom and shared my decision to divorce Bob. My mother was initially shocked, but after hearing my side of the story, she nodded in silence and welcomed me back home. She never imagined that her daughter, who she believed was living happily, was being treated so poorly. I never told my parents the truth, trying to present a facade of a happy marriage. I even tried to convince myself that I was a happy wife. I cried at my mother's understanding and for making them worry. I wept and wept until I began preparations for the next step. First, I started looking for a lawyer experienced in divorce cases. This was surprisingly easy because a friend of mine worked at a law firm. I met with a few lawyers and decided on a female attorney who had assisted many women like me suffering from their husband's emotional abuse. I gained an experienced and powerful ally. While Bob was in the hospital, I organized my belongings and prepared to leave the house. The challenge was to prove Bob's fault, but surprisingly, this was easily settled. When Bob had an accident and was questioned by the police, he told them,
I had an accident on my way back from dropping off my wife at the hospital, where she wanted to be with her father, who was being operated on after an emergency. However, his story seemed off. After all, I arrived at the hospital 2 hours after Bob's accident. When asked where he was and what he was doing during that time, I honestly told them everything, including being abandoned in the forest late at night. At first, the police were just shocked, but as they listened, they began to suspect it was malicious abandonment. Many people, not just the police but also those involved with insurance, his company, and others, eventually found out the truth. Bob kept making mistakes, and for that, I'm grateful. In this way, I was able to prove how much Bob had belittled, neglected, and hurt me during our 2-year marriage. He was deemed at fault due to emotional abuse. Though it was a short marriage of only 2 years and I never had to worry about finances, I was able to secure a satisfactory amount in alimony and divorce Bob. After the divorce, I returned to my family home and took care of my father for a while. Fortunately, my father's recovery was smoother than expected, and he seems to be getting back to his regular life without any lingering effects. My father's workplace has told him he can return after a brief hiatus, and he's deeply grateful for that. Luckily, I got a job at the law firm that assisted me during my divorce. A friend of mine got married and was moving because of her husband's job. Thanks to my friend's recommendation and the lawyer who had seen my true nature during my interactions with Bob, the hiring process went smoothly. Thus, our family of 3 is slowly moving forward. Bob has completely lost his trustworthiness since our divorce. No matter how good-looking worldly he might be, he's now recognized as a terrible person who can't treat others properly. It seems like no one wants anything to do with him now. A former colleague reached out, wanting to talk. Apparently, after Bob recovered from his injuries and returned to work, he was going around saying that I was a terrible woman who abandoned him when he was injured. Despite many people already knowing the real reason for our divorce, I'm astounded at how much he underestimates me. So, I asked my lawyer to send him a formal notice threatening to sue for defamation if he didn't correct his story. My friends also shared the real story, and those who were about to believe Bob's version now recognize him as a lying emotional abuser. Well, he seems to still have his job because he's competent, but I wonder how long he can keep it up in such a hostile environment. Right now, I'm not ready to look for someone new, but I want to find someone who truly cares for me next time. I want to show my parents a genuinely happy version of myself. For that day, I'll keep my head held high and continue moving forward.
This is the end for you. What are you doing? Open this door, please. And what do you mean by the end? I just flipped the breaker downstairs. The elevator won't work now, and you're stuck on the 2nd floor. What? Why would you do that? I'm supposed to leave for a 7-night trip with my friends. What about Mom? She's stuck upstairs. Stop kidding around and open the door. I could open it, but you won't be able to get downstairs. Your phone and laptop are down there too, so no calling for help. Dad's away on business for 3 months. Looks like you're in a bind. My stepdaughter Emily had actually stranded me, a wheelchair user, on the 2nd floor so she could go on her trip. This was beyond disrespectful. A week later, when Emily returned home, she noticed something was off as she climbed the stairs. Why are you so cheerful? It was clear Emily didn't understand the gravity of the situation, so I decided to teach her a lesson. This would likely be my final teaching moment as her mother, so I explained patiently. My name is Jennifer. I'm a 34-year-old programmer, just an ordinary person with a job, a marriage, and kids. But there's one thing that sets me apart. I've been in a wheelchair since a traffic accident in middle school. When it happened, I was unconscious for 3 days and bedridden for treatment. It took me a while after waking up to realize that my legs weren't working anymore. My mom had to break the news to me. Mom, when can I start rehab? I want to get back to playing basketball soon. If I take too long, I might lose my spot on the team. The doctor will have more to say, but the truth is, I spent the whole day crying after my mom told me the harsh reality. It must have been so difficult for her, and she cried with me all day. But my tomboyish, spirited nature helped me bounce back quickly. What's done is done. Now it's about what comes next. Life in a wheelchair was challenging, but not as daunting as I have feared. Over 20 years have passed since the accident, and I've adapted so well that it surprises people. I still have enough upper body strength to manage things on my own, like using the bathroom if I try.
I found a job with a company that understands my needs, and I work mainly from home. I go into the office a couple of times a month for meetings, driving myself in a specially adapted vehicle that I can operate with my hands. Sometimes on weekends, I just go for drives. In my 20s, I even enjoyed playing wheelchair basketball. There have been hurdles, but overall, I'm content with my life. And I even found love and got married, something I once thought might not be possible because of my disability. Does this setup work for you? Your parents' house seemed more elaborate. That was just my parents going all out because they weren't sure what I'd need. This is plenty for me. We just need to get a lift installed for the stairs. I'm not exactly handy with installations. Looks like we'll have to wait for the professionals. Last year, I married Kevin, who is 7 years older than me. Our meeting wasn't particularly dramatic. It was just your typical workplace romance. After tying the knot, Kevin and I rented a house and made it wheelchair accessible with permission. For us, wheelchair accessible meant practical adjustments like portable ramps and handrails, with the major addition being a rail lift for accessing the second floor. And so began our sweet newlywed life, or so we thought. I'm back, Jennifer. What's cooking? Weren't you with your mom today? Didn't you have dinner there? She mentioned having some errands and left early. Oh dear, you should have told me if you needed dinner. You know I always say that. My bad. Kevin, my husband, is divorced and has an 18-year-old daughter, Emily, who's currently in college. I've known Emily since before Kevin and I married, and we get along well. She calls me Jennifer. Emily also has a good relationship with Kevin's ex-wife, Mindy, meeting her occasionally and addressing her as mom. Despite potential challenges like my disability or dynamics with Emily, our family life seemed to begin smoothly. Little did I know, trouble was brewing behind the scenes. About a year into our marriage, Emily, who had always been friendly, started becoming increasingly distant, barely engaging in conversation. Welcome back. Are you hungry? Dinner's almost ready. No, I'm good. When Emily returned home, she would head straight to her room on the second floor, rarely emerging. Since I rely on the lift to go upstairs and it's often inconvenient, my life revolves around the first floor. I'd only make the trip upstairs about once a month to retrieve clothes or items from storage. For Emily, avoiding me on the second floor seemed like a convenient escape. I couldn't fathom why my daughter had grown distant. I even discussed it with Kevin.
Did I do something to upset Emily? You can't think of anything, can you? No, I can't. We were so close before, even when we first moved into this house. She talks to me the same as always. Why this sudden change? It wasn't sudden. It started about a month after we moved in here. Maybe living with me upset her. I doubt it. She's known about your disability since before we got married. Kevin and I were baffled, unable to understand why Emily's behavior has shifted. Without knowing the cause, we struggled to address it. I attempted to talk to her, but it seemed that approach didn't yield any positive results. Oh, you're home early today. I only had 2 classes. Can we talk for a moment? I stopped Emily just as she was about to go upstairs. What is it? Emily turned to me with a mix of frustration and indifference. I couldn't quite read her emotions, but her irritation was evident. We haven't been talking much lately. Is something going on at college, or is it something between us? If something's bothering you, you can talk to me. Don't try to be a mom. It's annoying. Emily muttered and headed upstairs. I was stunned, finding it hard to believe she had said something so hurtful. I tried to reassure myself that it might have been a misunderstanding. That night, I discovered the reason behind Emily's cold behavior and discussed it with Kevin. It seems like I'm the reason, she said. Don't act like a mom. It's annoying. What? Emily said that. Kevin was visibly upset, prompting a family meeting. After explaining my side of the story, Kevin loudly called for Emily from the bottom of the stairs. Reluctantly, she came to the living room with a sullen expression and took a seat. Emily, Jennifer told me you said something hurtful to her. Why would you say that? Jennifer, you're not my mom. You're just a stepmom to me. Isn't that how you treat a stepmom? How could you say that? Kevin, please don't start yelling. If Kevin lost his temper now, we wouldn't be able to hear Emily out and resolve the issue. Despite feeling hurt by being called a stepmom, I urged Kevin to stay calm. He composed himself and continued. Why would you suddenly start saying that? You never used to. I've been thinking about it. It's weird. Dad divorced Mom and married you within a year. You must have been having an affair with Jennifer while still married, right? Otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
I've known Jennifer for over 10 years. We worked together. That's why we got married quickly. And about the affair, Dad was always busy with work and Mom was often lonely. Maybe the divorce was partly your fault too, Dad. Emily, Kevin's a busy software engineer. His work supports our family. Shut up. It's all your fault. You've ruined our lives. Emily slammed the table with a loud bang, then swiftly left the living room. I couldn't understand why she held such beliefs, thinking I had stolen her father from his ex-wife. I think I understand the reason now. Let's leave it at that for today. Emily seems to have a misunderstanding. Jennifer, just keep your distance from Emily for now. I'll try to clear up her misunderstanding. I decided to trust my husband's judgment and let him handle it. Despite his efforts to explain things to Emily, she became increasingly resistant. Why are you so distant with your mom? Why do you keep clinging to that stepmom role? Just divorce already. What's the reason for your dislike? It's her very presence as a stepmom. Whenever Kevin talked to her daughter, she would confront me when he wasn't around. You asked Dad to talk to me, didn't you? Don't think you can get away with this just because he's on your side. That's not true. How can I believe anything from you who took Dad from Mom? Emily kicked the laundry basket in frustration. Here's a revised version of the segment. I struggled to gather the clothes scattered by Emily's deliberate kick, knowing my mobility issues made it difficult to reach them. She seemed satisfied watching the laundry fly further as she went upstairs. While I did my best to pick up what I could, my husband would reprimand our daughter, who would then take it out on me. This painful cycle had become routine, but to mend my daughter's misunderstandings, we needed to keep communicating, so this pattern seemed destined to continue. Just as I prepared to handle Emily with patience, my husband's long business trip was unexpectedly scheduled. I'm sorry to leave you two alone with this unresolved. It's work, it can't be helped. Maybe the company thinks I'm tough enough to handle it. If anything, I should apologize to you. It's alright if we have to delay resolving things with Emily for 2 or 3 months. I smiled as I saw my husband off, not wanting him to worry more than necessary. Despite my concerns about being alone with Emily for 3 months, there hadn't been any physical altercations, so I tried not to be overly anxious. That's what I thought, until my daughter's behavior quickly escalated once my husband left the house. 3 days after my husband left for his business trip, I noticed something out of place. Why is the picnic blanket here? Emily must have used it, but it seems she's left. Deciding to tidy up, I took the picnic blanket upstairs to the storage room. As I ascended, I heard the front door open. Oh, is Emily back already? Curious but focused on my task, I placed the blanket inside the storage room. Suddenly, the door slammed shut. This is the end for you. What are you doing? Open this door. Realizing I had fallen into Emily's trap, I found myself locked in from the outside, unable to move the door from my wheelchair. Fortunately, the storage room didn't have a lock, so she couldn't keep me trapped forever. What do you mean by the end for me? I'll open it soon, but first, just listen to me. I don't want to see your face, and you move surprisingly quickly for someone in a wheelchair. She had locked me in to prevent any confrontation. Given my background in basketball, I understood her caution, but her decision wasn't very wise apart from that. Do you think I'm going to harm you? What do you mean by the end? I just turned off the breaker downstairs. Now the elevator won't work and you can't get down from the 2nd floor. What? Are you serious? I'm leaving on a 7-night trip with my friends. I'll let you out in a week. Enjoy being stuck on the 2nd floor, stepmom. Stop this nonsense. Open the door. I could, but you can't get down by yourself. Your phone and computer are downstairs, and Dad will be back from his business trip for 3 months. It looks pretty hopeless. Why are you doing this? Because you stole Dad from Mom. Just get a divorce, and then Mom can have Dad back. She even broke up with her boyfriend, thinking Dad would come back to her. If she knew Dad's feelings, Kevin would never go back to Mindy because... What do you know? Good luck surviving. Her footsteps hurried away, and when I opened the storage room door, she was gone. Stepping into the hallway, I headed towards the stairs. Passing by Emily's room, I noticed a board about 8 inches high fixed at the bottom of her door. It allowed the door to open slightly but blocked my wheelchair from entering. Emily had cleverly trapped me on the 2nd floor while maintaining her privacy. As I reached the stairs, I discovered a few pieces of bread and a bottle of water on the floor, likely left there to ensure I wouldn't go hungry or thirsty. While tap water could keep me hydrated, the meager amount of bread clearly wouldn't suffice for a week. It was evident that Emily was serious about her intent to isolate and inconvenience me. This has gone too far. Determined to teach Emily and whoever else was behind this a harsh lesson, I waited patiently for a week. When Emily returned from her trip, I observed her quietly as she removed her shoes at the entrance. Keeping out of sight at the back of the room, I watched as she entered the house and glanced around, sensing that something was different. The stair lift was on the first floor and there were unfamiliar shoes at the entrance. However, Emily, oblivious to these details, felt a vague unease but couldn't pinpoint its cause. As usual, she hurried upstairs, unaware of what had transpired in her absence. Following quietly behind her, I heard her exclaim halfway up the stairs. "Why are you here?" "Shall I explain?" "What? How are you doing this?" Emily was startled to see me peeking from the storage room and even more taken aback when I spoke from behind her. She stared at me wide-eyed, trying to comprehend the unexpected turn of events. "You're not starving at all." "Of course not. You might have thought you trapped me on the second floor, but that wasn't much of a trap." "But didn't you turn off the breaker for the stair lift?" "The lift is battery-powered, so it works even when the breaker is off. It's designed for power outage situations." "Then, yes, right after you left for your trip, I used the lift to go downstairs. Even if it hadn't worked, I could have called for help from a window. And as for the breaker, I have a stick I use to reset it, so no issues there. By the way, thanks for the bread. It made a nice snack." Emily had grown distant from me about a month after moving in. Because she kept her distance early on, she never fully understood the extent of my mobility challenges. Even after living together for a year, she didn't fully grasp how the stair lift operated. As soon as she left for her trip, I promptly went downstairs as usual and called Kevin to inform him of the situation. When Emily learned that I wasn't starving, she quickly noticed Kevin standing near the storage room door, shocked and shouting, "Why is Mom here? And why is she sitting like that? What's going on?" "I'll explain everything." Kevin had been standing there the whole time, but Emily was so surprised to see her mother and me together that she hadn't noticed him. "Dad, why are you here? Aren't you on a business trip?" "It's not an overseas trip. It's Sunday, and I'm off work today. It's not unusual for me to be home," he explained calmly. Emily's naive question seemed to momentarily perplex my husband. At 19, with only part-time job experience, she assumed a long-term business trip meant he couldn't return home often. However, his trip was just a 3-hour drive away, and he planned to visit home every 2 weeks. Today, he had returned earlier than scheduled due to Emily's antics. "I've heard from your mother about the trouble you've been causing and suggesting divorce," Kevin said firmly. "Yes, it's all because of this fake mom. If she wasn't here, Mom and Dad could get back together. I'm never divorcing Jennifer, and I won't remarry Mindy." "Why not?" "The reason for the divorce might have been Mom's affair, but wasn't it also because you were always working? Besides, Mom can't forget about you. She's regretted her affair and ended it, waiting for you." My husband and I exchanged a sigh. Mindy, unable to bear the tension, had her head bowed, staring at the floor. "Mindy, explain it yourself. That's why I brought you here," Kevin urged. "Yes, the affair wasn't because of your work. It was just me enjoying playing around with other men," Mindy confessed, finally breaking her silence. "Lies, right? You told me Dad's affair was because of his work, and you left the other man because you couldn't forget about Dad." "It's not like that. I was dumped again because of my infidelity. I've always had low income from part-time jobs. Now in my 40s, I can't find a new job or catch a new man." Struggling financially, I thought of reconnecting with Kevin for support, but then I found out he had remarried. "So you fed Emily lies about Dad having an affair with Jennifer even before the divorce, trying to disrupt our lives and set the stage for a divorce?" "Yes, that's true." When Emily locked me upstairs, Mandy had expressed her desire to remarry Kevin. Upon hearing this from me, Kevin immediately contacted Mindy. Confronting her, it became evident that she had been manipulating Emily. The quickest way to dispel Emily's misconception that I stole Kevin from Mindy was to have her hear the truth directly from Mindy herself. Therefore, Kevin arranged for Mindy to be at the house when Emily returned from her trip. "What, so I was deceived by Mom?" It appeared that Mindy orchestrated the deception while Emily was unwittingly drawn into it. However, regardless of being deceived, Emily had clearly crossed a serious line, prompting Kevin to take a firm stance. "Mindy is at fault for deceiving you, but your actions went too far. Locking your mother upstairs and attempting to isolate her was unacceptable. Even if the lift had not worked, you could have been charged with unlawful confinement. What do you mean? I was tricked. Even if you were deceived, your actions were extreme. If the lift hadn't worked, you could have faced serious legal consequences for false imprisonment. This wasn't just a prank. Emily, you're not a child anymore. Emily's actions did not legally constitute unlawful confinement since the lift functioned, but her intent to confine me was concerning and could have resulted in severe consequences. This is outrageous. I'm only 19. Kicking me out before I even turned 20 is unreasonable. Legally, you're an adult at 18. Parental responsibilities have ended. You're not a child who can be indulged anymore. What do you mean? I'm still a student and can't do anything, and yet I'm considered an adult? That's the law. If you have a problem with it, take it up with the government. We'll support your college tuition until you graduate, but you need to manage your own living arrangements and expenses. That's impossible. Can't I go live with mom? She'll take care of me, right? I can't. I'm struggling financially and tried to use you to get help. I can't possibly take care of you. Regardless of what the law says, I still feel like a child. Parents should take responsibility for deceiving me. Rejected by Kevin, Emily had no choice but to turn to her mother, Mindy, who was also in difficult financial circumstances. While she could have reached out to Kevin, Mindy, or their grandparents, none lived near her university. Understanding her limited options, Emily had to rely on Mindy. I can at least stay in the house. If you move in, I'll end up having to cover your living expenses, right? I see where this is headed. I'm not like you.
No, you're just like me. You're my daughter, after all. An unpleasant, self-deprecating argument unfolded in front of us. I wish they would stop arguing in someone else's home. Excuse me, could you take this discussion somewhere else? Emily and Mindy left the house without saying a word. It felt somewhat pitiful, but Kevin was right. Emily was no longer a child. Her actions could have put my life in danger under different circumstances. Helping her understand the seriousness of her actions is also a parent's responsibility. I watched them leave, hoping for Emily's growth in the future. Ultimately, Emily moved in with Mindy, who lived in a small, inexpensive apartment due to financial constraints. Living with Mindy meant a cramped environment with little privacy. Mindy asked Emily to contribute towards rent and utilities from her earnings at a part-time job since Kevin only supported her tuition. However, as a student, her ability to work was limited and most of her income went towards basic living expenses, leaving little for social activities. It must be challenging for her at an age where socializing is crucial. She may even lose friends due to being unable to participate. However, this is a consequence she must accept due to her actions. With Emily gone, Mindy's life eased slightly with financial support from her daughter. However, instead of securing a full-time job, she continued with part-time work. Frustrated by financial strain, Emily frequently argued with her. You should find a full-time job, not just part-time. Are you planning to stop contributing once I earn more? Money became a frequent point of contention between them. Kevin remains open to supporting Emily if she shows remorse, but that seems distant. As a couple, Kevin and I have entered a new phase. Despite being married for over a year, it feels like a fresh start, and we're relishing our time together. I cleared out your stuff because it was cluttering everything, I snapped. As I suspected, Caroline was behind it all. My belongings, from clothes to cosmetics, had vanished. Fortunately, I had taken my computer with me, keeping it safe. But this was really pushing my limits. Robert stood smirking next to Caroline, clearly complicit in her actions. Why the blank stare? If you need something, go fish it out of the trash. And maybe it's time for you to find another place to stay. You're just in the way, old lady. I've tolerated it because she's his daughter from another marriage, and I've never questioned Robert's parenting decisions. But her disrespect has been ongoing, and after a year of being ignored, she decides to throw out everything of mine. Anyone would be furious after all of this. They have no idea what's coming when I'm angry. How pitiful they are. Well, I've made up my mind. I'm filing for divorce. Who knows if Caroline will even make it to college, and Robert, with all his hobbies, will soon find himself stretched thin financially. And first and foremost, he won't have a home to return to. It'll be quite the spectacle. Oh, I get it now. I'm the problem. Fine. I hope you both regret this.
Don't come running back to me later. No matter how much you plead or rage, it won't concern me anymore. Let the regret sink in. I'm Macy Rivers, 38 years old, a homeowner. I don't like prying into my work life, so I say I've renovated my parents' house and live there. Originally from an investment background, I've shifted into high-risk, high-reward stocks, steadily growing my assets. My father taught me the ins and outs of stock investing from a young age, making me largely self-taught but well-versed in the field. My path crossed with Robert's when he joined the gym I had been attending for years. We both happened to wear sportswear from the same brand, sparking our first conversation. Over time, our chats grew more frequent, and we began hanging out. Robert had a wide range of hobbies: gym, golf, cars, fishing, and his deep knowledge kept our conversations engaging. When he finally asked me out, our conversation went like this: Nancy, since the first time I saw you, I couldn't stop thinking about you. I want us to date with the intention of marriage. Yes, I would love that. I'm so glad. I felt the same way. There's something I need to tell you. What is it? Well, I'm divorced. My ex-wife didn't understand my hobbies and that caused issues. We have a daughter together, and she's been living with my parents. I was worried if I told you this, you might not want to be with me. Are you okay with all of this? If I'm going to be her stepmother, I should build a good relationship with her, right? Nancy, does that mean? It's all right. Whatever happened in the past, my feelings for you won't change. That marked the beginning of our relationship. At the time, Robert's daughter Caroline was in 6th grade, and I found her to be a sweet and friendly child. Whenever we met, she greeted me with a bright smile and seemed genuinely happy. Nancy, it's so good to see you today. I love shopping for clothes with you. Oh, Caroline, you're absolutely adorable. I feel like spoiling you. Look at you two, having so much fun. Can I join in too? Dad's just feeling a bit jealous. Robert does get jealous easily, doesn't he? I felt a strong bond forming with Caroline. I often bought her clothes that suited her style and brought cake whenever I visited, which she always enjoyed. One evening during dinner, Caroline quietly remarked, "It would be wonderful if Nancy could be with us every day." That statement led Robert to propose to me about 2 years after we started dating, when Caroline entered 9th grade. Given that I lived in a single-family home, they'd both moved in with me. At that time, I hadn't disclosed my income source to Robert, only mentioning that I worked remotely. I once shared detailed financial information with an ex-boyfriend who started taking advantage of me, making it difficult to end the relationship. My plan was to inform Robert after we got married, but time flew by and I completely forgot. About a year and a half into living together, with Caroline approaching the end of her freshman year in high school, I began noticing a shift. Both Caroline and Robert's attitudes towards me had noticeably changed. Robert's take-home pay was around $2,700, and he used to contribute about $1,000 towards household expenses, given that we lived in my own home. However, lately he only pitched in $200, spending the rest on himself and Caroline. When they ran out of money, they would come to me asking for more. It seemed they were spending extravagantly on their hobbies. One day, I decided to confront the issue. "Hey, Robert, can we talk?" "Now, I'm in the middle of a game. Make it quick." Caroline's spending seems excessive, buying designer items and expensive things, considering she's just a high school freshman. How much allowance are you giving her? And Robert, while hobbies are fine, aren't you spending excessively? Aren't you also making in-app purchases? Why not sell things you don't use? How much did I give Caroline again? Around $1,000, right? I want to give her everything she wants. She says there are many places she wants to go. Caroline's my only precious daughter, so why not? And don't interfere with my hobbies. Even if you did, I wouldn't listen. I work hard every day to support you all, you know. What? Are you saying I can't even have hobbies? Wait, what? You gave her $1,000. What were you thinking? Hold on, you're giving her $1,000 a month, and she's still asking me for an allowance. In that case, I need to talk to Carolyn too. But first, let's address your excessive spending. Okay. It's not about quitting your hobbies, it's about spending within reason. Do you realize how much money you're putting into the household? It's just $200. How are we supposed to get by? Hey, don't be too hard on Caroline, okay? She's just a kid. And so what if I spend a lot? It's my hard-earned money. I've always been the type to go all in on things I enjoy. I'm contributing $200. Shouldn't that be enough? Your house is already paid off, so we don't have mortgage expenses. Plus, you're working too, right? We've managed fine up until now, so let's not make a big deal out of this. Yes, it's your money, but there should be limits, right? Just because the house is paid off doesn't mean we don't have other expenses like taxes and utilities. $200 barely covers our bills. I work too, but the point is your spending is excessive. At my parents' place, $200 was sufficient. If there's a shortfall, why don't you cover it? You mean at your parents' place, right? They're both still working, aren't they? And their home is a different size than ours. We have higher expenses because of that. Are you implying my parents' house is small? That's it, I've had enough of this. Just leave me alone. I'm done listening. You're so frustrating, Nancy. No, Robert, that's not what I meant. You're the one who brought up the money issue. As I tried to continue, Robert put on his headphones and started playing a game, ignoring me. I needed to discuss something important with Caroline, but she was out enjoying herself, and I couldn't find the right moment to talk. Shortly after Caroline started her junior year of high school, we were all home one rainy day, so I suggested we have a family meeting. Despite their reluctance, I managed to persuade them, promising it wouldn't take long. We decided to gather in the living room. Caroline, Robert mentioned he gives you $1,000 as allowance, yet you still ask me for money every month. What are you spending it all on? Also, you've been staying out late too frequently. It's becoming a concern. Why are you getting involved? You're not even my real mom. It's none of your business what I do. Just leave me alone. You may not be my biological child, but right now, I am your mother. If you continue spending money like this, you'll face consequences in the future. That's why I'm worried. If you don't explain why you need so much money, I won't give you any. This is so frustrating. I just have a lot of things I want. There are also social obligations. Can't you understand? Exactly, teenagers have their own social lives, you know. Don't be so persistent. I understand she has friends and that teenagers like brand name items, but it's about the amount she's receiving. What's your issue? Everyone receives this much, it's normal. Things have changed since your youth, old lady. In the past, you would purchase cakes and everything else I wanted without asking, but now you're behaving all high and powerful. It's rather amusing. Wait a moment, did you just call me old? I am your mom, Caroline. It's my job to inform you when something is not right. Freelancer do. I was caught up in the moment and responded with intensity. It seemed Caroline didn't appreciate that. She scowled, clicked her tongue loudly, and raised her voice. Seriously, this is so irritating. I thought we were playing happy family because you'd buy me whatever I wanted. Why are you suddenly acting all superior? Just drop it. I'm going to ignore you like you don't even exist, so stop meddling. Wait a minute, Nancy. That's enough. You've gone too far. Apologize to Caroline. What? Now I'm the bad guy? Playing happy family? What does that even mean? I thought you were an easygoing person. Guess I was wrong. Just apologize, okay? I was taken aback. I hadn't realized Robert felt that way too.
The next day, Caroline completely ignored me. Robert texted me in the morning, I won't talk much until you apologize to Caroline. As days passed, I started questioning the purpose of our relationship and began considering divorce. About a year later, Caroline was in her senior year of high school, still ignoring me. Robert and Caroline continued their extravagant spending. Even when I stopped giving them money, they withdrew funds from our bill-paying account. Despite depositing nearly $2,000 every month, they withdrew it all. Faced with their ongoing behavior, I made a decision and approached Robert for a discussion. Robert, can we talk? I need to discuss something important. What's up? Are you finally going to apologize to Caroline? No, I don't see a reason for us to stay together anymore. I want you to leave this house. Excuse me, are you out of your mind? No, I'm serious. All right. Give me some time to think, okay? I need to talk to Caroline too. I want you to leave within 3 days. I've taken the day off and will be at the gym. Please pack your things and be gone by the time I return. Oh, in 3 days? Got it. I wasn't sure if Robert was really listening, but I said what needed to be said. I had a feeling neither of them wanted to stay under the same roof as me. 3 days later, after spending time at a cafe and an extended workout at the gym, I returned home. Seeing their shoes still there, I assumed they hadn't left. But when I opened the shoe cabinet to put away my gym shoes, I was shocked. All my heels, pumps, and boots were gone. A bad feeling rushed over me as I hurried inside. In my room, everything was missing. Not a single piece of jewelry remained. As I rushed to the living room, I found Caroline and Robert. They were both smirking at me. After a year of silence, Caroline finally spoke to me. "Oh, you're back. What's the rush? Where are my things? We thought your stuff was in the way, so we tossed it." Just as I suspected, it was Caroline's doing. All my clothes and makeup, gone. Luckily, I had taken my computer with me, so it was safe. But this is too much. I'm really furious. Robert and Caroline were both smirking together. Caroline started it, and Robert simply helped her. "What's with that blank look? If there's something you really need, why don't you pick it up? And why don't you just leave? You're in the way, old lady." "Oh, I see. I'm a bother, huh? Fine, I hope you both get what's coming to you. And don't come crawling back later. It won't matter to me whether you cry or get mad. I hope you regret it." "Regret? Why would we cling to an old lady like you?" "That's right, just like Caroline said. We're doing you a favor by being married to you. We might appreciate you for being married, but we won't ever cling to you in tears." Upon hearing this, I gathered my belongings and headed to a nearby motel. Luckily, they had a room available, and I spent the night there. Watch me, thinking that I did what I needed to do. About a month later, my phone rang loudly. It was Robert calling. I knew he'd call eventually. It was so predictable, I couldn't help but chuckle. I let it ring for a while before answering. "Hey, Nancy, where the hell are you? Enough is enough. Come back home." "Oh, I'm just a bothersome old lady, remember? Enough already. If you're sorry, come back and live with us." "Live together. You have quite a sense of humor. Why don't you just sign the divorce papers I left in the mailbox?" "Mailbox? Divorce papers? What are you talking about? Haven't you checked the mailbox? Why don't you take a look now?" "Just a moment." I could hear his footsteps over the phone, indicating he went to check the mailbox. I decided to wait. After a while, I heard him hurrying back. He must have been shocked by what he found. "Nancy, there's an overdue notice for the electric bill. What's with this amount? But the lights are still on and the water's hot. I paid it, so why did we get a notice?" "Robert, you don't understand, do you? We have an all-electric house, so the bill has always been that high. And if there's a notice, the due date is the end of this month, right? You need to pay it. I haven't paid since I left the house, and I changed the auto payment to come from your bank account. You do know they don't cut off electricity immediately, right? Did you even realize that?" "What? There's no money in my account to cover it. Please handle it. I'm broke until my next payday." "Why am I the one paying for everything? Is it the cell phone bill due soon too?" "Wait, Nancy, did you transfer the mobile account to my name as well?" "Yes, both yours and Caroline's charges are now deducted from your account." "Seriously, what's the total amount each month? You probably know better than I do."
You spend money on in-app purchases, and Caroline shops using her phone as a payment method. Altogether, it's about $2,500 a month, including mine.
"What?
That much? I didn't think I spent that much on games." Well, when you weren't spending, Caroline was buying accessories. You easily spend at least $800 every month. Did you not realize? By the way, my share was just over $100, I think. I can't handle this. I can't afford that much. Robert, let me fill you in on something.
What is it?"
Our monthly expenses, including the allowances I've been giving you both, add up to almost $8,000. Did you know that? House taxes, utilities, your car loan, mobile bills, the money spent on your hobbies, the allowance I gave Caroline, and everything else, it all adds up to roughly that amount.
"Wait, what?
$8,000. Hey, that's impossible. Is it really true? I remember getting upset with you for overspending. There were times it even exceeded $10,000. Wasn't that when Caroline bought 3 designer bags? Well, I could afford it at the time. Wait, Caroline was spending that much? I can't afford all of that. And what do you mean you could afford it because it was you? What does that mean? Robert, you really didn't understand much about my job, did you? Anyway, I'll have to visit the house for some business soon, so I'll explain everything then. Wait, are you coming back? Thank goodness. Please come back soon. Ha! What are you talking about? I'll see you when I visit next. Until then, you'll have to manage the payments yourself, okay? With that, I abruptly ended the call, feeling somewhat relieved. Robert lazed around until his phone rang again. He quickly answered when he saw the caller ID. Now that a date was set, I decided to leave a message. I informed Robert I would see him in a week, then muted only his contact number. A week later, when I arrived, Robert had taken the day off and was eagerly awaiting my arrival. I expected him to be there, but I was still unsure whether to broach the topic of my job directly. After considering all angles, I decided to bring it up just before I left. "I've been waiting," Robert said. "Who were those guys? Multiple boyfriends?" I asked, pointing to the visitors. "No, they came to look at the house," Robert replied. "Why?" I asked. "I'll explain everything before I leave. First, what did you do about the payments and the divorce papers?" "I had to borrow money from my parents. I'll need your help starting next month, okay?" Robert replied. "We're not getting a divorce," I stated firmly. "No, I'm filing for divorce." "I won't sign," Robert retorted. "Why not?" I demanded. "Then why did you come back?" Robert asked. "To get you to sign the divorce papers," I replied. "You thought I came to check out the house?" "No, I'm not divorcing you, so I won't sign any papers." "What do you mean by checking out?" Robert asked. "Let's forget about that for now. If you don't sign the divorce papers, Caroline will be upset with you. If you don't want Caroline to hate you, you'd better sign them. Otherwise, I might consult a lawyer and ask you to repay all the money I've spent on you, okay?" "Fine," Robert reluctantly agreed. "Oh, did the mention of a lawyer scare you? I just don't want Caroline to resent me. And if you decide to bill me for everything, I'll proceed with the divorce. But let's continue living here together." "No way," Robert exclaimed. At that moment, Nancy's companions, who had been inspecting the house, returned. It turned out they were demolition contractors. With Robert's signature on the divorce papers secured, Nancy decided it was time to reveal the truth as they prepared to leave. "You'll need to find a new place to live soon. Just so you know," Nancy informed him. "What do you mean?" Robert demanded, taken aback. "Well, I actually built this house," Nancy confessed. "What? I thought you said you just renovated your parents' house," Robert responded incredulously. "You never brought this up before," he'd accused. "No, I wanted to discuss it when we had built more trust, but I guess you've shown your true colors early," Nancy retorted. "So, Nancy, you must be making a lot of money then, huh?" Robert asked, a hint of disbelief in his voice. "You never mentioned anything about a mortgage," he added. "I've already paid off the mortgage. We can discuss everything else later," Nancy replied calmly. "I need to go file these divorce papers now," Robert insisted. "If you're making that much, maybe we should reconsider the divorce," he said, trying to snatch the papers away. However, the sturdy contractors easily restrained Robert. Eventually, they took him to the courthouse in their truck, where the divorce papers were accepted without issue. The following day, possibly with the day off, Robert called multiple times. Assuming he was interested in Nancy's work, she answered the phone.
To her surprise, it was Caroline who spoke, although Robert seemed to be present as well, as Caroline's voice echoed over the speakerphone. "Hey, what do you think you're doing? You told my dad to leave, right? Explain yourself," Caroline demanded sharply. "Good morning, Caroline. Yes, your father needs to find a new place because I'm the one who purchased this house," Nancy replied calmly. "What? My dad said you just renovated your family home so he could easily take it over," Caroline retorted, clearly surprised. "Well, that's what he told you, I see. Thank you for letting me know, Caroline," Nancy replied evenly. "Don't interfere. Tell me, Nancy, how are you making such large payments?" Caroline pressed. "Oh, I meant to tell you, I'm actually an investor. I've been trading stocks for a few years now," Nancy explained. "I know some people who tried that and failed. There's no way someone like you could succeed," Caroline scoffed. "Well, I did manage to succeed. My father is also an investor, quite successful himself. He lives abroad now," Nancy revealed. "That explains why we had our wedding meeting over video call," Caroline noted. "Yes, exactly. Due to the current pandemic, he's unable to return to the States," Nancy confirmed. "So, Nancy, were you living off your parents' money?" Caroline questioned. "Initially, I borrowed some money, but I promptly paid it back," Nancy clarified. "Care to share your total assets?" Caroline challenged. "No need to beat around the bush. I bet it's something like $100,000, Caroline guessed. "Nope, you're off by a few zeros," Nancy responded calmly.
Don't tell me it's $1 million, Caroline exclaimed. Close. It's actually $9 million, Nancy revealed. What? He struck it big. Too much for you to handle, I suppose, Caroline said, trying to process the information. Wait, you're lying? Caroline accused, disbelief evident in her voice. Lies? There's no way you're making that kind of money, Caroline insisted incredulously. If you think I'm lying, that's fine. We won't be seeing each other again, Nancy responded firmly. Wait, Nancy, let's get back together. Please come back, Robert pleaded. Well then, bye-bye, Nancy said decisively. With that, she hung up, blocked his number, and muted his messages. Feeling liberated, Nancy began searching for a new place to live. A few days later, an unknown number called. Reluctantly, Nancy answered, only to find it was Robert calling from his work phone, a number she didn't recognize. Nancy, please don't hang up. Listen to me, Robert pleaded urgently. What is it? Nancy asked, cautious but curious. A demolition crew is here. They're telling me to leave my house. Can you help? Robert's voice trembled with desperation. Where are you right now? We could come over, Nancy offered, showing concern. That's not happening, Robert replied tersely. Goodbye, Nancy said, preparing to end the call. Wait, Robert's voice pleaded desperately. Mom, it's me, Caroline. I'm sorry for what I said. Please, can we live together again? Caroline's voice suddenly came through the phone. Caroline, I'm not your mother anymore. Don't come crawling back now, Nancy replied sternly. It was my fault. Please let Dad marry you again. I won't be able to go to college, and my cell phone's going to get cut off soon. Please, I promise to be good, Caroline begged tearfully. It's tough, but remember, Caroline, you refused when I tried to be your mother. Life isn't always easy. Maybe consider getting a job or taking out a student loan instead of throwing a tantrum, Nancy advised firmly. A student loan? No way. College life is everything to me. I just can't, Caroline protested. Throwing a tantrum won't help. You and Robert need to figure this out. Take care and goodbye, Nancy said firmly, then blocked the number and headed to the phone store to change her number. 3 months later, Nancy heard from a gym buddy who was close to Robert that he had drastically changed. He was working tirelessly to repay the money he had borrowed from his parents and had no time or money left for hobbies. While out with friends downtown, Nancy thought she saw Caroline, but she no longer felt any obligation toward them. She had confided everything to her parents, who had invited her to live with them. Nancy was planning to leave the States soon, looking forward to new beginnings and leaving behind the turmoil of the past.